はい。 Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today is October the 4th, and this is the meeting, the public meeting of the City of Soledad City Council meeting, joint City Council Successor Agency Housing Authority and Successor Housing Agency regular meeting, again of Wednesday, October 4th. Thank you, everyone who's joining us here in our chambers and those that are joining us also via Zoom or those on our Facebook Live. So with that, if we can get a roll call, please. Oh, wait. So I call this meeting at 6:02.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ben Jimenez Jr.
Here.
Councilmember Alejandro Chavez.
Here.
Councilmember Maria Carlego.
Here.
Councilmember Fernando Cabrera.
Here.
Thank you. So with that, if you can please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, if we can please stand, and if I can have Councilmember Cabrera, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have at this time, is there any additions or modifications to the agenda? No additions or modifications.
Question. Would to the chair, would it be possible to add one item? I was wondering if we could present SB 329, which refers to city council second.
For a future meeting.
For a future meeting.
Yeah. We can, so added to, does that belong on the additions or modifications? For future? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, seeing that there's no other additions or modifications to the agenda, then we'll move on to our public comment period. So at this time, we'll move on to public comments. So we do have a couple of public hearings, so want to make sure that our public understands that under those public hearings, we will have public comment as well for public hearing number 1 and public hearing number 2. This is just general comments on items other than those that are public hearing 1 and 2. So at this moment, if there's any member of our public that wishes to address the council on items that are not appearing on the agenda, but are under the jurisdiction of the city council, if you could please come up to the podium. You do have 3 minutes. We will make sure that we first have those that are joining us here in our chambers, and then we'll go out to those that are joining us via Zoom. And just a couple of comments. I'll reiterate this again as we get into some of our public hearings, but just some of the protocols for tonight, whether you're joining us here via Zoom or on Facebook. We do want to make sure that I do note that we do have a Spanish translator. So if anybody needs Spanish translations, we do have that availability for today. And we want to make sure also that you are able to join this meeting. There's different ways you can join via Zoom. The meeting ID for today is 824-1980-5760. You can also call, the number is 1-669-900-6833. You can join via Zoom and make those public comments as well. And just as a note again, if you're on Facebook, comments made on Facebook do not come into the public record for this meeting. So just to note that. And then again, I know that today we're going to have some contentious items that are coming back again to us for final decisions. So I just want to make sure that the public, that we respect each other and that obviously there's strong opinions on both sides. The council does have decorum policies, as well as we also have decorum policies during the public comment period. So when making public comments, please refrain from making personal attacks or any derogatory comments. Please be respectful and keep comments specific to the items that we're going to be discussing. For the council members, please ensure that you adhere to the decorum policies as stated in Article 9 of our City Council Rules, Policies, and Procedures, council conduct with the public. And to ensure everyone has the ability to make public comments, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. And we also have, for safety reasons, I know last time we had more people in our chambers, but we have, if you can just stay clear of the corridors. We placed, they have the blue line, the blue tape, but those have been placed there for safety reasons. Just for better visibility, so just want to make sure that people don't, that just stay clear from that. And then also, if there's any material that you want to hand to the council during the meetings, please make sure that you hand that to our city clerk. So that way we're not handing materials directly to the council, but they're being handled by our city clerk. Okay, so with that, I will open it up for any public comments, and those that are joining us here are welcome to come to the podium.
Hello, my name is Chris Camacho, and I'm here. First of all, I want to say thank you to the city council and the community members to allow us to be here and the opportunity to present myself and our board of elected board of for the Soledad Little League for the 2024 season. We want to take this opportunity to present ourselves and reach out to the community and to the council members to let them know that we're here to support, and we know we cannot be successful this year without the support of not only our community, but our city council as well. So we're looking forward to a successful season and to the support of everybody within the community. Again, my name is Chris Camacho. I am the president of the board for the 2024 season. We have 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of us here present now. We're a total of board of 12 members, elected members. And our board members, our vice president, who is present, Gabriel Zavala. We have our treasurer, David Castaneda, who's unable to be here. And we have our secretary, who's unable to be here as well. Her name is Stephanie Flores. And we got Monica Orozco, Maria Castaneda, and we got Henry Tavares, who a lot of you guys know, remember him from the past years. And other board members not here are Nano Ramirez, James Nichols, and Robert Ramirez. So total of 12 members. So again, thank you for the time. I'm going to give the opportunity for somebody else that would like to speak and introduce themselves.
Yeah, there was another one you missed too.
Oh, Isabel, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm Enrique Henry Tavares, 3565 Rio Eagle Ridge. We need to do right. And again, I'm just reintroducing myself. I'm here to reintroduce ourselves as being part of the youth baseball community, and just looking forward to, again, hopefully a bright future for the Soledad Little League. And again, just coattailing off of Chris. We'll just be looking for support from the community and also maybe from the city council in the future as well. So just thank you for your time, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, do we have anyone else from the public that likes to make a public comment at this time? An item, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Almaraz. Nice to see you all again. I live in the Benito Affordable Apartments. I've been living here for about 15 years now. And I would like to re-express my interest and my community's interest in the third district map. And
Christopher, so that is going to be under public hearing number 1. Yes, that's okay. So public hearing number 1. So if you're here for the, yes, if you're here for the district map decision, then that's under public hearing number 1. Yes, just to make that clear. Okay. Anybody else that's here? Okay, then I'm going to take it out to Zoom, and then I'm going to actually there is a public comment that came in, a written public comment. So I'm going to turn it over to our city clerk, Darlene, who's going to read the public comment.
In May 2019, a rape of a teen girl took place at a LULAC National Convention in Garden Grove. The Salinas LULAC 2055 chapter covered up the rape that happened under their watch. The reason is simple. The youth who raped the teen was a family member of the LULAC president, Chris Barrera, and then VP, his daughter, Irene Barrera. Irene Barrera's fiance was a 3rd board member. Jacob Sandoval, who is Andrew Sandoval's brother, was a treasurer. Chris, Jacob, and Andrew have a vendetta to intimidate anyone who has exposed them or who has asked for justice for this Latina young girl. Madam Mayor Ana Velasquez, an elected official of your caliber has influence. You are a huge supporter of women and transparency. Numerous photos and verbal public support indicate that you are close to these individuals. I ask that you use your influence to hold them accountable to be part of bringing justice for this Latina young lady. Soledad Council, I ask that you do the right thing and cut ties with LULAC until they make the Salinas Police Department, Garden Grove Police Department, and the internal investigation public and admit witness intimidation and criminal cover-up. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the public and just for public record, when there's for the public, again, to reiterate, when there is public comments that are made during this time, then the council doesn't respond to public comments. So I just want to make sure that the community understands that. Okay. So if there is no other public comments from those that are joining us here in the chambers, then I will take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom. So I do see a hand up. Mr. Sandoval, can you unmute yourself? And you do have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Andrew Sandoval, and I'm the Immediate Path District 12 Director, which covers Monterey County and San Benito County. This anonymous public comment is just a frivolous attempt to slander and defame the LULAC organization. This issue has been investigated by the police department and findings show no such incident occurred. The report and investigation has been provided to all media requesting it. Councilmember Alejandro Chavez was actually at the meeting where this was discussed along with board president of Hartnell College, Aurelio Salazar Jr., who was tasked with following up with parents. And despite his failures to do so, the police investigated and it was concluded that nothing in fact happened. Of course, due to the work LULAC does across Monterey County, we would be a target and efforts to discredit our organization would be ongoing. The investigative reports have also been provided to the Hartnell Board of Trustees. I request that Hartnell Board President Aurelio Salazar Jr. and Councilmember Alejandro Chavez make themselves available to hold a public meeting in Soledad, if requested by the residents, to answer any and all questions regarding these false accusations. Alejandro was in fact a member of LULAC, and so Aurelio Salazar was actually the president of the youth for LULAC. You know, it's really unfortunate that people are making these attempts to discredit the organization, but I would be glad to sit with anybody and show them the police reports and have any conversations. Using these strong words of rape and Latinos and witness intimidation are very hurtful to the community, very slanderous. And, you know, to whoever wrote this email, please feel free to reach out directly. And I'd encourage Alejandro and Aurelio to join me in a meeting in Soledad to address any concerns and any issues. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other public comments at this time from those that are joining us virtually? Okay, I see no other hands up. So we are at this time, then we're going to close a public comment period. And we're going to move into our consent calendar. And today we have, under our consent calendar, we have seven items to discuss. Thank you. Okay, so let me take it out to the public. If there's any members of the public that wish to pull an item from our consent calendar. Okay, any members of the council that wish to pull an item from consent calendar? Okay, and I want to pull item C5 for comment, C6 for comment, and just C7 for a report. Okay, can I get a motion on the other items?
So more.
Okay, so. So move on for item C-1 to C-4. Okay, so we do roll call. Do you want to do a roll call motion?
Mayor Anna Velazquez,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Benjamin Jimenez Jr.,
Yes.
Councilmember Alejandro Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Grant Corlejo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernando Rivera.
Okay, so the motion passes unanimously, and so we'll move on to the items under the consent calendar, C-5. So this is resolution number 600. So I just spoke for comment, and on this one, obviously, our C-5, yeah, which is the resolution for the Liberty Chapel. So I just want to say on this one, and obviously this is a very important event to our community that has been around for 20 years. But just for our team, I know that we have the fee waiver, but I would like for future, if we can provide the total of the remaining balance in the council budget. So that way we know what the total is. And then also just a recommendation for next budget cycle in 2023, that if we can bring this back and have a breakdown on the use of funds for the council so we can review and approve. I know typically it kind of gets overlooked, but if we can really have that so we can better understand and our residents can better understand how that money is also utilized under that specific budget line item. Yeah, thank you. Okay, then mine is also on resolution number C-6. So this one is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Soledad approving the sponsorship of the Business Expo. So on this one, just for transparency purposes to our community, the city is partnering with the Soledad Merchants Association on this event. So I just wanted to pull that for transparency. And then also just upon a review of the website, I know I wasn't able to find any contact list, emails or phone numbers for the representatives from the Soledad Merchants Association. However, it is my understanding that Councilwoman Corralejo operates the association. So as Councilwoman Corralejo is also a council member, it's important for me to be able to inform our public that there is no conflict of interest. Based on the definition of the Fair Political Practices Commission, as association doesn't collect any membership fees and there is no financial interest in the part of the city. And the city is not providing funding as part of this event. However, the city is waiving the fees to use the facility and is sponsoring the event. So I just want to make sure if some perceive this as a conflict of interest, because the city is sponsoring, has a sponsorship capacity, we will be waiving the fees for the use of the community center. But to this effect, I want to make it clear to the public that I will be supporting this only because I know that the city will also offer the same opportunity to other partners like in Pajaro CDC, the Soledad Chamber of Commerce, should they return, nonprofits and other local community groups. So as long as they're providing relevant resources to our community and there is no financial benefit to the organization. So I also would like to ensure that the city is part of the marketing efforts and that all the businesses in our community are invited to participate in this event.
Through the chair, just for transparency, I was under the same assumption that Councilmember Corralejo was running the organization. If so, would it be okay for her to recuse herself from the decision or from the voting? This is a question too.
So through the chair, hold on. I'm gonna allow you to respond to that first before.
The decision as to whether or not she wants to recuse herself is actually a personal decision. It's not a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to make it clear that under the Fair Political Practices, there is none, but I also wanted to make it transparent for our community.
Yeah, so through the chair, thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. And I did speak to our legal counsel prior, and yeah, there's no conflict of interest. This is a great event. And as was stated, it's something that we have had other organizations do, other nonprofits here. So it is going to be great. It's going to provide a business expo, job fair. We're also going to have a Thanksgiving food drive. And there's also going to be resources for businesses and entrepreneurs. So definitely everyone's invited, not just in Soledad, but I'm also proud to be working with our own city and the city of Gonzales and city of Soledad. Thank you.
Thank you. And was stated in my comments. So now we'll move on to item C-7, and I just pulled that for just for a report to our community. I do have some comments, but I know that this is obviously something that's really important and needed. For a lot of the different issues that we're having with staffing. So I just want to make sure that we have a report out to the community on the need for this position.
Sure, I'll start and just say that we have a great Soledad Police Department, very committed to the community. It has been challenging for us to recruit for the vacant police officer positions. And I think our chief and his team have done a great job of recruiting mainly locally, but from this area, and encouraging people to go through the academy. And that's how we've filled some of these positions. But that has resulted in folks who are less experienced because they're coming direct from the academy. And we have about 10 or 9 officers who their level of experience is 3.3 years, and the last 5 that we hired have 1.3 years of experience. So it was of an interest to ensure that these individuals are paired with a more senior sergeant to ensure, training, mentorship, guidance. And so we have 4 sergeants that we need a 5th sergeant. And so we're looking to reclassify a police officer position to a sergeant. That would enable us to have coverage in case one of the sergeants is out. We don't have a senior level person there, and it often ends up having to be a more junior level police officer doing watch commander duties. There are times, because we don't have that individual, that we're not able to provide the customer or the resident service that we'd like to be, in terms of having a more senior person available to do certain functions that only a sergeant can do. And so this would allow us to provide better service to the residents of Soledad. It will help with community engagement, because a lot of times these officers who are sergeants have been here for more years, more experience. And we're very committed to assuring that leadership also, to the extent possible, is bilingual and, from the area. So we think that this is a win-win for everyone, the community, because we'll have deeper engagement, we'll have more coverage, but also the officers too, because mentorship and having that partnership is really critical in their development. We hope to have the best, and we think we have the best police department in the Salinas Valley. Just to summarize the report.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for that. Yeah. And that's what I wanted, to make sure that our residents understood. I know that the need is there, and to be able to reclassify this position and to be able to ensure that we continue to support our police department and our employees is really critical. So thank you for that. So I had no further comments, other than we're still recruiting for the 2 additional patrol officers, right?
We are still recruiting for the officers that the vacancies we still have. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I will,
To the chair, I have just one final comment, and it's just basically a question for legal attorney. So in the past, I heard you saying that when it comes to conflict of interest, is as long as there is no law against, it is not conflict of interest. And now you add, it is a personal choice. So can we have as a record that conflict of interest is a personal choice, and it's not a conflict of interest if there is no law against it?
What does this have to do with the matter that we're discussing right now?
Well, because you just mentioned it, so I want to make sure that I'm getting the exact statements for future references, so that I don't have to bring it up if it is a personal matter.
Mayor, you want me to respond?
so can we do it once we approve this? And then that way it's not, so it's separate, because it is a separate comment from this. So what I'll do is I'll make a motion to approve item C5, C6, and C7.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. So I'll turn it back to for clarification in
So,
terms
yeah.
of what is a conflict of interest.
So for clarification, the Political Reform Act establishes laws, regulations, and so forth that have to do with whether or not a conflict of interest exists. In a particular action or activity that a council member, sometimes staff members might be involved in. And when there is a regulation or a policy that specifically says a conflict exists, then there is no option. The person who has that conflict must recuse himself from participating. And in some cases, that even won't be enough. In some cases, the council as a whole would not be able to act on the matter. But when we're dealing with something that just, is there a perception of a conflict, right? There's no true legal conflict, but if there is a perception of a conflict, then the involved council member or employee has the discretion to say, you know what, I don't think I have a conflict, but for purposes of perception, I'm going to recuse myself and not participate in that. That's the reference that I made to a personal decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on then to our next item on our agenda, which at this time is our public hearing, and that's public hearing number 1. So it's ordinance number 765. Consider waiver of reading, adoption, and read by title only on ordinance of the City Council of the City of Soledad establishing and implementing by district elections. So for the public hearing, we're gonna receive the staff report. I'm gonna open up the public hearing for comments from the public, and then I'm gonna close the public hearing, and we'll come back for council comments and then council action on this item. Okay. And I will start with opening up then, we'll start with the staff report, and I will turn it over to our city attorney.
Sure, and I'll keep it brief. We've had a full presentation on this. It almost seems like at least on several occasions, and definitely at the meeting that we had on September 6th. Right? So the city council commenced its effort to move to bi-district elections back on July 20th of 2022. And over the course of 15 months, the process for bi-district voting transition has included 5 public hearings, a series of community workshops to educate the community and members of the public and staff as well on mapping tools. And those were held both in Spanish and English. And the city council formed the City of Soledad Advisory Community Districting Committee, which met to discuss the districting process, the means by which maps are prepared, and review and make recommendations on maps that have been prepared. A total of 8, 4, and 5 district maps were prepared for council consideration. The city's consultant in this matter, NDC, has verified that all the maps were prepared in compliance with the criteria established by the Fair Maps Act, which is found in Elections Code Section 21601. The council met on September 6, 2023 at the 5th public hearing concerning the bi-district transition to consider a preferred map. After public comment, the council discussed its options and positions at length, ultimately selecting the bi-district map 501B as a preferred map by a split vote of 3-2. The council waived reading, introduced, and read by title only ordinance number 765, establishing and implementing bi-district elections in the city of Soledad. Ordinance number 765 is back before the council this evening for consideration of adoption. And this is also a notice public hearing to receive additional public comment. Just by way of background, the ordinance that's before the council this evening will codify bi-district voting as the means by which council members are selected in the city. It will incorporate the preferred district maps, and it will establish a proposed election schedule to implement the new voting process. The election sequencing that's embodied in the ordinance would have 3 council members in districts 3, 4, and 5 up for election in 2024, and the remaining 2 council seats, which are in districts 1 and 2, up for election in 2026. No current council member's term of office will be impacted by the bi-district conversion. The mayor's position would no longer be selected at large by the voters, but would instead be filled from among the 5 sitting council members under the 5-district scheme. The method by which the selection process would take place has not been acted upon by this council and is not embodied in the ordinance that's before the council this evening. So once again, the council should take comment on the proposed ordinance, and then after closing the comment session, should consider waiver of reading, adoption and reading by title only of ordinance number 765. If adopted, the ordinance will become effective 30 days thereafter or on November 4th, 2023.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for the staff report. So at this time, then I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. And it's 6:32, so I will start with those members of the, let's start with our council chambers. So anyone that wants to make a public hearing, this is a time to make your comments on public hearing number 1. So I would ask anyone that wants to make a public comment, if you can please come up to the podium. So we have no one that wants to make a public comment. Oh, we have some.
Yeah.
I was waiting for.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry,
sorry. So we're gonna do this a little bit different. So I know we have some cards, but if there's 2 cards here, and then if anyone just wants to come up to the podium, that would, we're gonna do that as well. So I have Monica Andrade.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and community members. My name is Monica Andrade, and on behalf of the Soledad Committee for Voting Rights, I stand before you to ask the council to reconsider the adoption of ordinance 765, establishing and implementing the 5-district map that overturns and strips a resident's right to elect their mayor. In 2003, Soledad residents passed Measure C, which allowed voters to elect their mayor. Voters approved Measure C by almost 90%. In 2023, the City Council commissioned a nonpartisan analysis to establish voting districts. The analysis determined that the most equitable option was a 4-district map with the mayor voted at large. The 5-district map has the highest deviation and lowest equitable distribution in population in comparison to the 4-district map. During the August and September 2023 City Council public hearings, residents testified overwhelmingly in support of a 4-district map, with the September meeting having 46 people show up in support of a 4-district map compared to only 6 people supporting the 5-district map. Despite the vast support from Soledad residents, the City Council adopted a 5-district map for political reasons alone, being that the map was drafted by former Mayor Fred Ledesma and pins the 2 dissenting votes in the 5-district map against one another. When asked to provide details on how a 5-district map with an appointed mayor is more equitable than a 4-district map with at-large mayor, the 3 council members that voted to adopt the 5-district map failed to provide substantial evidence of equity. During the September 2023 public hearing, the council had the opportunity to approve a motion that would have allowed the decision on a 4- or 5-district map to be made by the voting residents of Soledad. The 3 council members rejected the motion and therefore suppressed the vote of the people. In an effort to stop the gerrymandering of our voting system, the Soledad Committee for Voting Rights will be launching a referendum should the council vote to adopt the 5-district map, as it is not in alignment with the majority voices of the residents of the city of Soledad. Again, we ask the council to do the right thing and listen to the will of the Soledad constituents and reject ordinance 765. Thank you and good night.
Okay, do we have anyone else to make a public comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Marta, let me go with this. I apologize. Filomena Madrigal. Apologize for that.
Good afternoon or good evening. Everybody knows who I am. My name is Filomena Madrigal and I live here in Soledad. I lived here all my life. I was raised here. I was born and I was raised here. And I think, in my opinion, we've always voted for whoever we wanted. And in the past, the votes were good because we voted for whoever we wanted and they were good. So now the votes, they're not considering our vote. I think that they're just doing their own thing. They're thinking that they can do their own thing and put whoever they want. But this is not right. We've got to obey the law and obey what what the law says. The law says to have a mayor. So why don't we keep our mayor? If she's doing a good job and she's doing an awesome job at it, keep her. Why you guys are gonna take her out if she was doing a good job at it? And I don't see her doing anything else but doing the best to her knowledge to help the people and to do for the people and to do for the city. So why you guys wanna put 5 other people? No, no, no. You guys gotta do it right and think about it. We've always had just one mayor. One opinion, and she was the one who they would go to if anybody had a problem. And I think they should just keep it that way. She's doing an excellent job. So why? Did they go out of your way to kick her out? No, no, no. That's a no. That's against God's law. That's against God's rules. And above all, why do this? It's not right. Thank you.
Do you have any other public comments?
Buenas tardes, alcalde, city manager, miembros del concilio aquí presentes y sobre todo la comunidad. Mi nombre es Marta Zárate y soy residente de Soledad alrededor de 18 años. Vivo en el 980 Front Street, aquí en Soledad. Como siempre me dirijo a ustedes con mucho respeto, al igual espero lo mismo por parte de ustedes hacia mi persona y sobre todo a la gente que estamos aquí presentes. Estoy aquí preocupada por lo que pasa en nuestra comunidad. Ustedes como personas elegidas por los residentes ciudadanos de la comunidad que tienen el derecho a votar y elegir a quien nos representen, las decisiones que toman siendo parte del concilio siempre deben ser pensando en el bien de la comunidad. Esto implica la decisión de continuar alzando nuestra voz por medio del voto. Lo que se ha optado la reunión pasada me ha dejado sin palabras, puesto que no se ha tomado la voz del pueblo, donde se supone ustedes son esa voz quienes transmiten nuestros pensamientos y preocupaciones. Es triste pensar que han sido elegidos por el pueblo, la mayoría de ustedes, y ahora no llevan a cabo esto de los distritos. Entonces, ¿qué estamos esperando? Mi preocupación es mi comunidad, al igual que ustedes, tomen todas las cosas por el bien de la comunidad y no de uno mismo. Gracias.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Manager, and Council members, and of course, the community. My name is Marta Zarate, and I've been a resident in Soledad for 18 years. I live at 980 Front Street. And I'm here with presenting before you with respectfully, and I expect the same thing back. I'm here because I'm worried that because I'm worried about my community. The community is the one that has elected you, and as elected officials, you should be listening to the voice of the community. The last meeting that we had here around this item doesn't reflect the voice of the community. As elected officials, you should really be putting the betterment of the community before your personal interest, and I'm here because I'm worried. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else that wants to make a public comment? I don't have any more cards, so anyone from the public can come.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es María Sánchez. Buenas noches a todos. Una vez más estamos aquí para pedirles que reconsideren su postura sobre los 5 distritos. Véanlo esto como una segunda oportunidad para hacer lo correcto. Y como les dije la vez anterior, no tiren a la basura todos estos años de trabajo y servicio a la comunidad que han hecho. Especialmente Benny y Alejandro, que tienen muchos años haciéndolo. María va empezando, pero va empezando mal, por lo que veo. Y ustedes han hecho un buen trabajo y deberían de seguir haciéndolo. Entonces, para esto, pues hagan lo correcto, votando por 4 distritos como toda la comunidad está pidiendo. No vayan en contra de la comunidad. Yo creo que ustedes son más inteligentes que esto y creo que tienen la suficiente inteligencia para saber lo que va a pasar si mantienen su postura con los 5 distritos. por favor, si le tienen un poco de amor al pueblo, no lo pongan en esta situación y sobre todo, no hagan gastar en algo que se puede evitar. Gracias.
Good afternoon, my name is Maria Sanchez, and I ask you to reconsider your position. This is a second opportunity for you to do the right thing. Ben and Alejandro, you have been in the council for a long time and you have done great things. Maria, I think you're off to a wrong start with this decision. Voting for 4 districts is the best approach. Don't waste all the good work that you have done so far by making the wrong decision. By supporting the current proposal, you will be going against the community, and all of you are really smart individuals. And you know that depending on your decision, there will be consequences. So I'm asking you to put the community first and to reassess your decision.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hello, council. My name is Christopher. Again, I live in the Benito Affordable Apartments. My message is very simple. I'd like to start with this. The people united will never be divided. And then no weapon formed against us shall prosper. We're very godly people. We have a deep culture from farm worker background, grandparents who brought my family to Castroville and El Salvador to restart the rest of our legacy. I think it's important to have integrity in what we do. We brought a lot of attention to our city that's quite bad. It's quite embarrassing to say like, hey, what's happening in Salvador with all that stuff? Honestly, man, I'm embarrassed not to explain it to you. So yeah, like everybody just voiced clearly, I couldn't say any better. This is your second chance to do what's right. I have a lot of love for public officials who do what's right. Obviously, there's a lot of content to use for recall campaigns, the referendum, and really highlight your true colors. You know, I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I think it's important on the things that we are involved in. My family has been in the community for a very long time. And I think it's important to almost represent the city as its citizens want it to be represented, not how personal vested interest, so to say. Y'all know what's going on. It's clear. It's all politics. But you're in a position to do what's best in the interest of the community and yourselves. And I think moving forward, it's going to be clear on which side you stand. And at some point, it will be out with the old and in with the new. So do what's best for the city. We have a lot of great things going ahead of us. I'm very active. I just spoke to the Secretary of Agriculture for the state. She came to CSUMB for a great event. And she had a lot of great things to say about our community. It was very disheartening to hear what's going on, interestingly. And then Jimmy Panetta, I got to meet him just over a month ago. Totally disappointed to hear, you know, that Soledad is on the map for this. And then thanks to, you know, great individuals like Ana Velasquez, we're working on a community project to bring more trees into the community, you know, so we should focus our energy on community projects that benefit the community instead of objectives that are dividing the community. So many people came out. It's clear what the community wants. It's clear what y'all intentions are. So again, this is your chance to do what's right. You only get, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I think the voters will do the best to make sure that going forward, we elect people that are doing and representing the city to its full capacity. So thank y'all so much for y'all's time. I hope y'all make the best decision and may God be with you. Thank you.
Okay, before I take it out to, before I go to those that are joining us via Zoom, any final public comments from here? Okay, so I will take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom, and I do see there's 3 hands up, so I'll start with Lisa Lopez, if you want to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you all for allowing me to speak once again. I just got off work. I don't have anything too prepared, but I just want to reiterate some of my comments during the last meeting is that I'm not in support of the 5-district map. I'm in the I am in support of the 4-district map with an at-large mayor. The last meeting was so disappointing. I think the one positive thing that came out of it was that so many of the community came together to talk about what they want to see for the future of Soledad. So many of my family members were, so upset, so disappointed. And I come to a lot of meetings. I've been coming over the years. Unfortunately, my work schedule doesn't allow me to be there in person, but it was so great to see so many folks, that love Soledad come and voice, that they were in favor of the 4-district map and not in favor of the 5. But it was so disappointing to hear that there are some folks on this city council that are taking a paternalistic approach in their role. And by paternalistic, I mean that you are not seeing yourselves as what you should be as a public servant, right? Instead, you are seeing yourselves as someone, from what I can see, what I'm perceiving as folks who know better than everybody else in your community. Because when everyone in the community is saying, we do not support a 5-district map, and you go ahead and make a decision that seems very self-serving, that's what it comes off as, a paternalistic approach. Again, I urge, those folks who are on the city council, specifically one person who was not voted into that position, to step down if you really care about the community, because you cannot represent Soledad. You cannot become a mayor of Soledad when we did not put you there. And like I said, I think it's a time to reflect and, humble yourselves so that way you can best serve the community and really listen to our voices. Like I said, I didn't have too much prepared, but I'm glad that there are more folks, today coming and reiterating what they said. There's really nothing I can say that hasn't been said, so many times by our community. It's, I think it's obvious what we want. And if you continue with this decision to move forward with the 5-district map, I put my faith in my community, and I unfortunately, no longer have faith in the city council aside from our mayor and also Cabrera as well. I thank you both for really listening to the community, right? And just, that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next I see Gabby, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I also just came out of work, and I just wanted to give, again, this issue is in black and white. How do we protect the same accessibility and the same accessibility as the 4 districts to the mayors? And I ask any council member who wants to speak on it, how much does it take to run a mayor campaign in Soledad? Or again, like, how do we protect that? How do you all work together to come up with, yes, I hear the community, they want to vote for the mayor, but how do you compromise and come together and not be polarized on this issue? Because I think it's important to have those districts, but again, I think it's important to protect the mayor's seat from the same rights that the other 4 districts have. How do we support a future, leader to be able to, one day run for mayor, who doesn't have the financial means to run? So that's my thing, and everybody's praising the mayor right now. But I asked Mayor, you wear the Si Se Puede shirt. How do you, look at the mayor knowing that you supported somebody from city council who has been censured and you celebrated her?
So Gabby, I'm going to stop you. Gabby, I'm going to stop you if you can unmute her, because that's not related to what the discussion is today. So thank you for your comments, but no, you're not going to be doing that.
So I'm just giving a second opinion.
Stephen, she is not allowed to speak on public comments on issues that are not related to the city council. It's not on the issue that's related to this discussion. And I think that's been said several times. So can you just make sure that the public understands that position, please, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, the public comment that we received on a specific item is different than the public comment that we received at the beginning of the meeting, the general public comment that can be on any topic and so forth and so on. Here, we're receiving public comment on the specific issue, which is the ordinance number 765 that's before the council this evening. So you may have issues with the decision-making of the various council members and so forth, but personal issues that seem to be outside the realm of the decision that's before the council this evening in this particular public hearing, which is just this ordinance number 765.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so we'll move on to our next speaker is Fernando Ansaldo. If you want to unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So hello, Mayor and City Council. I am once again here to voice my opinion about the districting process with the risk of sounding like a broken record. I find it interesting that the council decided to vote 3-2 to approve a 5-district map drawn by former Mayor Fred Ledesma, especially considering that 46 people spoke in favor of a 4-district map. Only 6 people spoke in favor of a 5-district map, which included the husband of Councilwoman Coralejo, the daughter of Mayor Pro Tem Ben Jimenez Jr., the wife of former Mayor Fred Ledesma, who had to be brought to order, mind you, and 2 friends of former Mayor Ledesma, and 1 woman from Los Angeles who just spoke before me with a personal vendetta against Mayor Velasquez. Of course, all residents have the right to make a comment, but if the only support comes from friends and family of the council, it does raise concern. The council often talks about hearing the will of the people, listening to the young voters, and focusing on equity, but time and time again, we only see Mayor Velasquez and Councilmember Cabrera put these promises into action. It is appalling that we are here today with another likely 3-2 vote, ignoring the will of the people. Councilmember Cabrera brought a substitute motion to the table during the last public hearing, where he recommended taking the issue of districting and selecting a map to the voters. 3 of you voted no. Why? I'm also waiting to hear how 5 districts and a mayor not voted by the public is more equitable. I really hope that the council does not continue to ignore what the residents of Soledad are asking for and that the 5-district map is not adopted. I highly doubt that this council will do the right thing, but I welcome you to prove me wrong. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so at this time, I don't see any other hands up. Oh, I do. Okay, Frank Coralejo, do you want to unmute yourself? Can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, am I unmuted? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
So I guess Mr. Ansaldo was saying something about friends and family, and there's a lot of your friends that do come and speak, for you regarding the 4 districts. And I'll just be truthful, like if any of you haven't ran, any of you that are speaking right now, any of you that haven't ran, it costs a lot of money. And when you do run, you can get a lot of outside help. My wife chose not to go that route because we have lived in Soledad all our life. My mom was the first woman to run for city council in 1972. Ben was on council like during a heated time when he was probably the only Chicano on that board there. So with the 5 districts, if you put like, say like a cap, like $10,000, then it's I believe it's a fair race because what do you win? When you win with money. $20,000, $21,000, $22,000, that's a lot of money for a mayor campaign. And that's what it comes down for me. It's like if Maria would have had more money, she would have had a better shot. That's just the truth. The 5 districts, and then when you go 4 districts, and if the mayor and a council member is in that district, where are you putting that mayor at? You're either putting that mayor at risk or that mayor is going to sweep that whole district and nobody's going to have a chance. And then there was another lady speaking that she, has been here in Soledad her whole life. She may have a chance to run for council. Maybe with $5,000 or $6,000 she can raise and she could sit in that seat. It's equity. LULAC wanted equity and it's going to be way better equity. Fernando can probably run for council and he can sit in that seat and become mayor. Even though he has different ideologies or anything like that, You know, he does speak pretty good when he has ideas and stuff like that. So I mean, he would have a chance. He wouldn't have to go and raise $20,000 or $30,000 to become a mayor. I think, you know, I think that that's what you guys are forgetting right there. Is that equity that you get. You get that equity, and you know, not only that. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to get done. Like, there's just a lot of stuff here. We're like just at a stagnant. That's what I feel. For me, like that's why I spoke on the 5 districts. And yes, because Maria is my wife, and I am going to support her. If Maria decides to do whatever she wants to do, then I'm going to support her. She's my wife. I do feel that I do have that right to support my wife 100%. We have a business. I work 15 hours a day sometimes to support my family, to pay 2 rents. You know, I'm not sitting here asking for anything. Just, you know, I think equity.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time's up. Okay, so we'll move on to Amanda.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I just want to say I am again asking the 3 council members against the 4 district map to please reconsider. And I just want to add to what Frank Corralejo was saying about his wife and about her not having as much money, I guess, for her campaign. I mean, the people elect the mayor. Yeah, you have money for a campaign, but the people elected our mayor. And at that point, it's not about money anymore. It's about what the people wanted. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, next I see Alma Fausto. If you want to unmute yourself.
Buenas tardes. ¿Sí me pueden escuchar?
Sí, yes.
Ok. En realidad no tenía nada preparado para hablar públicamente, pero precisamente lo que la gente está pidiendo es de que se reserve ese derecho de que si la concejal Corralejo quiera correr para mayor para el próximo término, pueda hacerlo. Eso es precisamente lo que queremos resguardar como ciudadanos, ¿verdad? De que tengamos los distritos para que se pueda distribuir, ¿verdad? La posibilidad de representar a todo el pueblo, pero que si ella quiere correr para mayor, pueda hacerlo, si es que quiere hacerlo, para que las futuras generaciones tengan la oportunidad de elegir quién va a ser el alcalde o la alcaldesa. So I wasn't prepared to say anything, honestly, but it's like, that's precisely, this is something that we need to come together with, come to terms. And the gist of it is that the people, what they are trying to protect, the majority, what they're trying to protect is the right for a council Corralejo to be able to run for mayor if she so chooses to do so. So she will have the ability to be able to do that. So the upcoming generations will be able to, you know, have that chance to vote for who their mayor will be. I understand that the districts, you know, it's something that is coming, and it's something that, you know, will benefit us because we will have, you know, people from different sides of the town representing in the council. But that's exactly what I want, you know, for my kids to be able to vote for who they want their mayor to be. Gracias de verdad por su tiempo. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, any more comments from those that are joining us via Zoom? Yeah, I don't see any. Okay, so then at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:01. And then I will bring it back to the council for comments, final comments, and then council action. And so I'll start with Councilwoman Corralejo and work this way.
I actually am gonna pass. I don't think I have anything to add, so maybe when we go around the second time. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, let me get the mic here. Again, we've been through this portion of it already. I think these items have been explained. We talk about equity. We talk about the reason why we're going to districts. And again, this was pushed on us as Mrs. Magdaleno said, regarding used to vote, you've always been able to vote for all of us. Anybody that on this council you can vote for. Well, that has now been taken away from you. And you're asking for is just the opportunity to vote for the mayor. With that said, the studies have proven or have shown that there's better opportunity for young people to run as a result of districting. There's having to raise less money to run, and it's true. The mayor position, they spent $20,000. The winner spent over $20,000 on the campaign. How many people can do that in town? So that's one of the other things, is making it equitable and fair for everyone to have an opportunity. Secondly, it also involves younger people with less money having to raise, smaller districts having to seek support. They are given more of an opportunity to run for council, and they run within their district. You know, for myself, I totally agree in the sense that we're trying to do what's in the best interest of this community and seeing this community move forward, to focus on the future of our Soledad. For me, there's no doubt, I've raised my family here. I've been here over 50+ years. So for anyone to question whether it's a matter of integrity, I'm not even gonna go there. But for me, it's what's in the best interest. I see for the future of this community and not for any one individual, but what's best for the whole. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, for me, it was a hard decision all the way around for me. It's just been hard, the whole process. I think from July of 2022 until now. Back then, the question for me, and it's still there, was, why don't we go out to the public and allow for us to ask the public about districting and wanting to do districting in the first place? Does the public want to go and have districts in our community? But it was kind of a push of a timeline that was pushed on us to say, you have to make a decision on what you're going to do. Either you're going to get a lawsuit or you're going to move forward with districting. And I still think our city's too small for districts. I really do. I think our city's way too small to have districts. And so this whole process has been really difficult for me, just because I really, from the beginning, didn't think that we should move into any kind of districts. And so going through the process of having, a committee and having maps and looking at data and looking at all this stuff, listening to the community, it's everywhere. I think our community at this point has been very divided. It's very divided in our community. I get comments everywhere, and they've been on folks telling me that 4 is a good idea, and I've gotten tons of folks that have told me that 5 is a good idea. And it's not a fun thing to be out there and listening to folks divided in our community about this. But having said that, I think my regret early on was to have not pushed the idea of just holding off on moving through this process and going out and putting a referendum from the beginning. To ask the community, the first question was did they want districts? Not, did we want 5 districts, or did we want 4 districts? Do we want districts at all? I think that was my biggest regret. But having gone through the whole process and looking at the questions that keep being brought out of going from an at-large system where every single member of this body at one point or another will be elected as was elected or could have been elected at large by the entire city. And now going to a system where we would go to either 4 folks being divided into 4 areas and 1 person being elected at large, to me, just never made sense to me through the whole process. And I keep listening to it and I keep trying to understand it and I'm trying to comprehend it, and it just doesn't make sense to me. But going from an at-large system to an all district system is the only way that I can figure this out for me, at least how it balances out, because I still don't think that the district should be happening. I don't think the districts at all should have been happening in our community. I think we're too small of a community. But going forward in a way that we're going to elect as a city, folks that everybody had a chance to vote for anybody, to now everybody getting a chance to only vote for one district seems like the most equitable thing on the plate. And so that's the decision that I made, and it wasn't an easy decision. And I still feel it's not an easy decision. I still feel about the whole process, not that decision, the whole process. You know, for someone who didn't grow up in Soledad, I didn't grow up in Soledad. I've lived here for 22 years. And from day one, I volunteered in Little League. I volunteered at the Y, soccer, basketball, volleyball, every sport that was out there, and made sure that there was some kind of benefits here in our community of pushing forward arts. And it never really panned out very well because they would come and go and come and go. Dance, come and go and come and go through different programs in our community. You know, pushing guitars, not guns here in our community, and it came and looked like it was gonna go, but it fell apart. You know, just a variety of different things over the years. And so I feel that all of that experience and everything that we've pushed forward of making certain that our community has good parks, that they have lighting, that we brought Hartnell to our community so that we can have education going forward, so that there's something solid here in this community forever. Those things is what unite our community and keeps us together. But this districting thing has divided our community, and it will continue to divide our community. And that's unfortunate. And I feel bad about it. But I still can't see myself understanding 4 and 1 if we're going from at large, where everybody was voted by the entire city, into a system that's not going to be the same on the opposite side. And that's where.
Councilmember Cabrera?
Yes, I'm sitting down here thinking something stuff. But I'm gonna try to relax a little bit so that I just say what I feel. When I was young, I was watching a commercial, and this girl came out and said, you don't have to understand girls, you just have to love them, right? So when I hear all this about equitable, I said, I don't understand why 5 districts, why 4 districts. You don't have to understand it. You just have to give the right or keep the right of the people what it's supposed to be. This is not anymore about for the people, by the people. It's for the people, by the council. And that. I don't know how much education or how much intelligence you have to understand that. I don't, I understand it's simple. Give the people the right that they deserve, the right to vote for whoever they want. And I do want to thank everybody, all the people that came and expressed their opinion, no matter what. Last time we were here for hours, and people stay until they had the opportunity to express their mind, express their opinions. And yes, all our town is as divided, but it seems to me that it's divided 98% in favor of the 4 districts, and only a few hands in favor of the 5th district. Because I keep asking, if tons of people are making comments about the 5 district, where are they? How come they don't show up their face? There are so many people that arguably support the 5 districts. And we didn't even have the person who drew the map come and show up to support the map. You know, I admire all of you guys. And I'm gonna tell you, you are the why some of us are here. Because you are the person that we want to represent. We want the person that we want to have services for. We want to hear you. And I'm gonna keep reminding you of this moment, at least until next November. So that you know that you have the right, you still have the right to vote for somebody in this table. And I'm gonna keep reminding you so that you can vote for the person that will actually vote for what you deserve. I always hear $20,000, $30,000. If you had $30,000, you could be a mayor. I spend about $5,000. But you know what I spend mostly? Hours in the cold, right in the corner, letting people know that I was running for this position because I wanted to have the right, the privilege to represent you. I didn't focus in businesses because I know that some of those businesses are also residents. I didn't bring business individuals from out of town so that they can tell us how we are supposed to vote. No, I focus on the people because the people is the one that votes. And I want you to understand that I truly feel for you and I will there for you. And I understand your frustration. Because I saw that living in Mexico. I saw it throughout my youth, and when I was at community college, and when I was at the university, I saw the disparity, those gaps between the ones that have been in this government for years. Do you really think that somebody who has no income, and you can check all the people that contribute to our campaigns. It's public information. You can request that information and you can see who support. But for me, it's the message that we send. Right? We send the message to all the people in Soledad that we don't care. I don't care how you feel. I'm gonna do what is best for the city. Yeah, right. I emphasize a lot in conflict of interest because the person who drew the map and Councilmember Chavez have a employee-employee relationship. Councilmember Jimenez is brother-in-law of that person, and Council Corralejo accepted contributions from him. So if there is so much connection between them, are you saying that it's equitable for you? Really? For me, is that just the, I believe that the Soledad community for voting rights is in the right path. My colleague, Councilmember Chavez says that he wanted to send it to the people. You have several opportunities throughout the process to say, let's put it to vote. You still have one opportunity, one last opportunity to say, you know what, let's send it to the vote. Let's let the people decide, not us. Let's let them decide. You have another opportunity. All of us have another opportunity to say. All we have to do is wait. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, so I just, so I have I have a question for the attorney, but I'll ask that when it's my turn. Councilwoman Corralejo, do you want to make comments?
Yes, thank you. So yes, this is obviously a subject that has been before us, as they brought up earlier during the staff report many times. So we have spoken about it many times. And I know for me, the first time that I ever heard about the districting was way before I was even on council. I was watching the meeting on Facebook. And I remember, I don't recall exactly all the council people that were up here, but they were definitely different ones. I know Cabrera and myself were not here. But I remember they voted and everybody voted no. The only exception, if I recall correctly, was Mayor Velasquez, and I remember before she voted, she said, I don't, and it's not exact quote, but kind of stating that she was not in agreement, but pretty much we have to do this because we are at risk of liability of getting sued. So with that said, I don't think that it's anything that was really welcomed from the beginning. But here we are now. So when I started, that was one of my first meetings, was meeting with the consultants, and we met in Gonzales and discussed the districting process and just the basics of districting. And so with that said, I know for me, it's really, you know, again, the equity of it, that the 5 districts to me provides more equity, because then all 5 people will be able to run, will be able to be voted by the people. And then from there choose a mayor. And also another of the reasons for me that I voted for the 5 districts map was because the 4 district map to me seemed like it would be double representation for 1 district, because they would have the city council member as well as the mayor residing in their district. And that means that, you know, when they're taking the kids, dropping the kids off at school or jogging or whatever, you get 2 people that you get that are going to be representing you, and not just 1. And then with that said, I think you know, I'll bring it up. I know I've seen it a lot in districting. I think I agree with Councilmember Chavez that Soledad to me does seem like a small city to have districts, and I've seen it in other cities where a lot of council people get appointed because nobody wants to run. So they just start appointing people to these seats. So that's something else to consider. And I know for me, on a personal note, I keep hearing that I wasn't elected, I was appointed. And that is correct. And I'm actually pretty proud of the fact that I was appointed. At that, you know, back then when that position became available, the council as a whole decided that they didn't want to spend money to run an election. It's costly. As it is to run as a candidate in an election, it's also just as costly or more so to, you know, as a city to put this on this election. So the council decided as a body that they were going to appoint. And there was, you know, a lot of people that I respect that submitted applications, and we all came, we all interviewed. It was a very transparent process where we all got to see everybody's application, and part of it was what have you done civically. My list was pretty long. I've been doing civic stuff for our community for many years, and you know, I think at this point I keep hearing something about me running for mayor. If that were an option, honestly, at this point, I don't even know that I want to run for council again. And so that's not saying that I don't, but I just haven't made that decision yet, and I won't make it until I'm a little bit, you know, closer to the time where I have to make that decision. And so, you know, with that said, to me, it doesn't have anything to do with me running or not running. It's not a personal decision. I just think, you know, again, for the equitable purposes and for equal representation, to me, the 5 districts just seems like the best option.
Okay, so I'll make my final comments unless there's any other comments. But let me make my final comments and then we'll come back for any final, or this is the final comments question, so we can move along.
I mean, everybody's had the opportunity to speak except yourself, and if you want to go another round of comments after you speak.
Okay, perfect. I have a question before I do my comments, but just because I want to be clear and I want the public to be clear on what we say here, what is said, some of the things that may be correct, some of the things that may not be correct. So I want to make sure our public has accurate information. So in regards to the question, item on the referendum, that the council could have taken it back to the council. The council could have taken it out to the public when the districts first came before us, that we could have done a referendum, that we could have said to our community members, do you want to be into districts or not? I just want to make sure that for the public, you provide correct information, whether that is true or not. Could we have done that? Because I don't believe that's accurate, but I don't know. So I want to make sure we get correct information.
The council could have put an item on the ballot to find out what the community's interest was in going to the district voting system. The problem was that we had a threat of potential litigation, right? And so even if we had a vote in favor or opposed to, it did nothing in terms of having exposure to litigation for not having a districting system in place. So that's why I think that the council decided to move forward with the transition to the district position. The potential risk of having significant attorney's fees, win or lose in a case like that, was enough to convince the council that they needed to move forward with the districting process.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So there was an option, and I don't remember how extensive the council before talked about it. And so, so now I remember it wasn't optional because of the threat to litigation, right? So, okay, so then that wouldn't work. So I just want to make sure that's clear for our public, that it could have happened, but because we're under threat of litigation, it didn't, because there was timelines that we need to comply with. So thank you for clarifying that. I want to make my comments, and then I just want to make sure too that I'm responding to, there was said that I voted initially no to the districting when it came before us. And then I know I was one of the lone votes to vote yes for it. And so at the beginning, I know when I voted no, and I want to make sure the public understands this as well, is because of the threat of litigation. Because it was coming before us, because there was other cities. And I believe at that time, our city attorney had extensively provided us with information that the city of Santa Monica was in a legal battle. And they had spent millions to be able to fight the battle in regards to going into districts. And I think it's still under litigation. I don't know if there's been a final determination on that, but the city of Soledad, for me, we don't have the money, we didn't have the budget. And that wasn't something that I was comfortable saying that we're gonna fight it because we believe it's not the right thing to do. And expose our employees and our community to be under budget issues, as the city had many years ago, where they had to lay off half of the staff. That was not something I was willing to put the city at risk. And so I did vote for it. And the more that I learned about the California Voters' Rights Act and about what it did to different communities and how it's implemented and the purpose of it to really ensure that people that may not be able to run for council or may not have the financial means to run for council, it provides a more equitable opportunity for other people to be able to have that. And that's political power and also financial means, right? Some people have political power and they're able to run for council, and there's people that have financial power as well, and they're able to run for council. What this does, it really ensures that it doesn't matter that there's districts and the people within those districts are going to vote for you. And it makes it, at least for our community, where our demographics and our medium household income is $66,000 annually, that many of our community members don't have those financial means to be able to sit here in these seats. And it provides a better opportunity for our residents to be able to do that. So I am, I am gonna vote no today, and I want to make sure I clarify that on the 5 district map, and that's just to be consistent with the vote that I had in August and back in September as well. So, as was said, we've been going back and forth on this, and I'm gonna stay with the reasons, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to articulate those reasons to the community why my vote. Again, I will not be supporting the map that allows the council to appoint the mayor and it does take away the right of the people to vote. As a Soledad resident and also as a mayor, honestly, I'm also appalled, whatever you want to use, that this council is suppressing the vote of the people by now allowing them to vote. And these are rights that many people have fought for, have died for, and have defended. The claim that the 5-district map and the rotating mayor is more equitable to the residents it's not true. Equity means fairness. So I just want to remind people of what equity means. It means fairness and just. And it's not fair and just to disenfranchise the voters by taking away their power to vote for their mayor, because that's what we're doing. It's also untrue that this will provide more representation to the voters. The fact is that it will decrease representation as the residents will be excluded for making decisions in the voting process. And they won't have that choice. In fact, it's the map that the majority of the council selected, and it was said several times, and I'm going to reiterate it, that was created by a former mayor, Fred Ledesma. And it's not the most equitable. There was other maps that were presented before us, and even though it met the criteria, it's not the most equitable. It has the highest deviation in population, and I think we've seen it over and over. And for our residents, there's documents and reports where that data can be found. The reality is, and I think we all want to be clear about this, and I sure do, because I'm, like Councilwoman Corralejo stated in regards to just the issues and challenges, and Council Member Chavez about how difficult this has been. I think it's been difficult for everybody. I'm totally exhausted with this process. But the fact is that the map that's being approved is not, again, the most equitable. And it is a political decision that's being made that is not based on the democratic principles, nor based on the best interest of the people of Soledad. And as a reminder to this council, I also want to share what democracy means, and I want to make sure our residents understand that as well. A democracy is about equality, freedom, and justice. It's about all the things that we hold true, that many have fought for in this country, that many have died for. The decision of this council is the very essence of an undemocratic decision-making that process that benefits only a small minority. Who are the beneficiaries of this decision? Only 3 council members and a former mayor, and a handful of people that came here before us to say that's what they supported. I've also talked to many people in our community, and I haven't heard anyone saying, I'm in agreement with the council making the decision to vote for my mayor. Who stands to lose in this process? The residents of Soledad. Those who were here on our September 6th meeting, those who were here on August city council meetings, those who, wrote in comments in support of the 4-district maps, and those who were here and who felt that their voices were suppressed and disregarded. The advisory committee, districting committee that was established, it was established to ensure that there was an equitable process. And it voted unanimously, and I want to make sure that this is on record, because it voted unanimously to recommend the 4-district map for council consideration. And that was ignored. So who's to lose? It's also the people in this room, those that are joining us here tonight, and our Soledad residents. And before I do my concluding comments, I do want to address that the studies have shown that going to a district process is more equitable. But we also know that there's, when they talk about it, it doesn't fit in Soledad because it's too small. There's 12 cities in Monterey County, and I'm going to highlight Delray Oaks because it's probably the smallest city that also has districts. But all the other cities in Monterey County went through the same process. And all the other cities in Monterey County, with the exception, at least the last several years, Greenfield, Monterey, Gonzales, have gone through this process. And none of them thought like this council, that it was unequitable to be able to have an elected mayor. All of them went to a 4-district, but still giving the people the right to vote for the mayor. So I'm not sure what makes sense to this body and why we think that this is more equitable. And I also want to address some of the false statements that were made in regards to the campaign, and that I have all this money. I spent all this money on my campaign. The fact is that when I ran my first time as city council, I only spent under $2,000 because I didn't have money. And the fact is that when I ran for council, the majority of the people that had been elected, either mayor or sitting in the council member, were members of families that are from Soledad, that had political power and that had money. I didn't come from that. My parents were farm workers. I had no political power and I had no money. And it was really hard because although I worked in local government, I was never in a position of an elected official. And so, as was said, we as elected officials have to submit our 700 forms that have all of our contributions, who contributed to our campaign, how much, whatnot, what was spent. And I welcome our public. And if you want mine, please let me know because I will happily give you all of my Form 700s. When I ran my second campaign, and it said several times now that you have to have money, and there was a lot of money that I had and whatnot. I ran against an incumbent mayor that had been here for 10 years. He had political power and he had money. I had no political power and I had no money. I had to raise money. And one of the things for me is I hate asking for money. I came from a hardworking family that my dad told me, you know, what you have, you earn. And what you have, you spend. And if you don't have it, you don't spend it. So I lived my life in those terms and I didn't have money. I didn't have a lot of money that people continue to say that I have. I didn't. I think in my campaign, especially running against a mayor that had been here for 10 years was really difficult. That had a lot of political power, had been in the seat was really difficult. That not only had he been in the seat, but his father had been in the seat and other relative members that have been in his seat and continue to be on the seat as a council. So when we talk about political power and we talk about, I had this money, I want to make it clear to the public and to this community that that's not what I had and that that's untrue. And if people want to believe that, come and sit with me because I can share with you what it took me to be able to run for council and to run for mayor. And what it took me was not the money. What it took me was going out there day in and day out in those Saturdays that I didn't want to go out there and I didn't want to talk to people because I was exhausted and because I hadn't had an evening with my family members. But it wasn't about the money because we can put up all these signs. At the end of the day, the people elect who they feel is going to be the best representative. And that doesn't come just because you put up a sign on somebody's lawn. That comes because you take the time to go and you talk to people and you hear them and you listen to what the needs are. And you try to find solutions of how we can make this place better. So like many that have been here for many years, I've been here forever. I grew up in this town. And what I've tried to do for Soledad hasn't been for self-fulfilling reasons. It hasn't been because I have a business, because I don't. I'm not trying to improve my business. I'm not trying to get money because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not trying to gain political power because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here like all of you that are here is to be able to do what's best for the city of Soledad. And for me, I don't think what's best for the city of Soledad is to suppress the will of the people to vote for the mayor, not because I'm the mayor, because I don't want to be here like the past two mayors for 10 years, sitting in the seat. I'm also, you know, it's been a really tough journey for me and understanding that you get things done when you have a group of people that want to work together. And it's tough when you have a group of people that don't want to work together. And so for me, I was the first female mayor in 100 years, and I'm going to say it, and I'm proud to say it, because I want to make sure that the next generation has that opportunity, that they know how important it is, civic engagement. They know that we live in a country that fought for rights to be able to do that if you want to. And being part of a process where now people are going to have more opportunities, because I grew up in Soledad and I never thought I was ever going to be mayor. I never even thought I can even have that opportunity to do that. So for me, it's important that we have these districts where people are going to run in their areas and are going to have the opportunity. And we're going to decrease the barriers or financial barriers or other political barriers that they have. Because at the end of the day, if you want to hold office, you got to go out there and you got to meet the voters. You got to work hard. It's not about signs and it's not about how much money you have. In Soledad, it doesn't work. You can go to bigger campaigns and maybe that's what it's about. But it's not here in Soledad. People want you to go out there and people want you to talk to them and people want to feel like they're heard. And that's what wins votes. It's not money. So at the end of the day, for me, having those opportunities for our next generation to sit in these seats is really critical. And also the understanding that even though everybody is gonna get elected, the mayor in its position is really critical to the city. And I found that out now, having to sit here now for the last 3 years. That it takes a person, you can't just select from council members that are here. Because they may not want to, first of all, they may not have the desire, they may not have the time, they may not have the energy. And it's not fair for the people that do want to run and do have the time, do have the energy to be able to do that. When I first was elected, someone told me, I don't think you're going to be good at the mayor because it takes a lot of work. And I took that to heart and I said, yeah, it takes a lot of work. But I also knew that I was about hard work. My parents taught me how to work hard. And I was going to work hard if I wanted the voters to really understand why I was here. So for me, I don't feel that every person in this council or even future will have that desire to be here, to really do what's best for the community, to go out there and make sure that we're at the tables where decisions are being made, where the city of Soledad is gonna either gain something or not. And so for me, I've strived to make sure that I'm at every table that I can. And that came with the sacrifice. So I just want to share that with the public. That came with the sacrifice to my family. Because there's evenings when I don't get home and my kids and my husband already had dinner. And there's many of those evenings. But the purpose for me is not because I want to sit in this seat for the next 10 years or even for the next couple of years. It's because I love Soledad. And I know Soledad and our residents deserve a whole lot more. There's a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of resources that we're not accessing if we're not at the table. And that's why I do it. But not every council member that's going to be on a rotating basis is going to it's going to have that energy or even going to have that mindset. So for me, it's not, I want what's best for my city. And what I've heard from the community overwhelmingly is that we're going through district elections, but they want to elect their own mayor. As a resident of Soledad, I also vote. I don't want the council to elect my mayor. I want to do that myself. And I want to make sure that that person that I elect is someone that I know and that I trust is going to be here and make decisions that are in the best interest of Soledad, not in their best interest. So thank you. Those are my final comments. So we can clap, sorry. We can't clap because we wanted to make sure that everybody was treated equally, and we just want to make sure that people don't feel uncomfortable either. So with that, if there's any final comments that the council wants to make, if not, we're going to move forward because we have another public hearing that we have to get to. Okay, see no public comments, then take a motion.
So move to adopt 765 waive by title only.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Can you do roll call, please?
Mayor Adam Velasquez.
Nope.
Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Alejandro Chavez.
Aye.
Councilmember Maria Corleone.
Yes.
Councilmember Fernando Cardona.
No.
Okay, so motion passes on a 3-2 vote. So we will thank you for those that attended. Can we take a 5-minute break? Let's take a 5-minute break before we start our next public hearing, with the public hearing number 2. Oh, business. Oh, so can we do the business? Do we take the business? Okay, well, let's take the business now. Sorry about that. And then we'll take a 5-minute break for public hearing number 2. Business item, the next is resolution number 6006, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Soledad establishing procedures for the selection of the mayor and the mayor pro tem. I'll turn it over to our city attorney.
So this is a follow-up to the action that the council just took. As we discussed earlier during the staff report, the shift to a 5-district format will have the council members select the mayor from amongst themselves, and we don't have a process for doing that at the current time. So prior to the election in December of 2024, the council needs to establish a procedure for selecting the mayor. At the council meeting on September 6th, there was actually, I think, a motion and a suggestion of a motion to adopt it at that time. And I opined that we couldn't do that because it wasn't agendized for taking any kind of action on that particular item. So we brought this back for the council to consider. There's no urgency to adopt it tonight if the council has suggestions and changes and so forth that they want to make, but we do need to get a process in place, obviously before the election in December of 2024. The council already has a process for the selection of the mayor pro tem on a rotating basis, and that changes on an annual basis pursuant to resolution number 5674, and that was adopted back in January of 2021. We, on a staff basis, decided that it would make sense to combine the selection of the mayor pro tem and the mayor in one single process as opposed to having two different processes. So that's what the resolution before you this evening attempts to do. Staff looked at a variety of different rotational systems that are employed by cities throughout the state for the selection of mayor on a rotating basis. Sort of operating without a ton of input on this particular item, but my sense was that the idea was that the rotation would be based on a one-year term in order to maximize the opportunity for all members that represent their district to be appointed mayor and mayor pro tem at some point in time. One of the approaches that is in use right now in the state is to establish the mayor and mayor pro tem by way of a rotation by district. So simple, the person in District 1 is the mayor, the person in District 2 is the mayor pro tem, and then, the next year, so on and so forth, and you go through the districts. The problem with that for the city right now is that the two districts, District 1 and 2, will not be formed until the 2026 election. And it leaves the potential for us to have, in theory, 3 new council members who would be appointed to the districts or voted in to the districts in districts 3, 4, and 5, which would make it complex to start the process, the rotation process with those districts. So another approach that, so I didn't use that one when I was trying to come up with something that the council could consider. Another approach would be to base the appointment on the number of votes received at the last election. So council members would be ranked by the votes that they received. I've seen that suggested a number of places, some staff reports and so forth, but I was unable to find an actual provision that put that into action. Votes received is often used as a tiebreaker. Where you have a rotational system, as I have put together in this resolution before you, that's based on continuous years of service. There may be many times when you have 2 council members or even 3 council members who have the same length of time on the city council, and in that particular instance, a tie would be broken by going back and look at the number of votes received at the last election. So the resolution before you this evening has a rotation system that's based on continuous years of service, in other words, seniority. So the mayor and mayor pro tem would be the most senior council members based on continuous years of service who have not yet served or have not served in either role for the longest period of time. The common rule that I seem to find in most of the existing rotation policies that are in place is that a council member has to have served at least 1 year before they are eligible for service. It's either a mayor or mayor pro tem. That could be changed easily if that's what we decided to do, but that is sort of the rule that's in place almost everywhere that I look. The resolution also has contingencies to address ties in the length of service, and I just mentioned how that would be, the tiebreaker would be based on the number of votes received. It also has a provision that allows a council member who's the next person in the rotation to defer service. They decide they don't want to be the mayor or the mayor pro tem, they can so state, and they get bumped to the end of the rotation list. And there's also a process for filling vacancies on the council should those arise during a given mayor or mayor pro tem's term. So this is before you tonight for consideration of adoption. That being said, the council doesn't have to make a final decision on this tonight. Provide me with different input on what you'd rather see or modifications to the existing resolution. But I thought it was best to try to get this before the council sooner rather than later so that we don't have this whole issue of districts and 5 maps and 4 maps all over again in 2 months or 3 months' time. And that's why I'm part of this.
Thank you for that extensive explanation. So I will, any comments, I will open it up for comments and I'll start with, I started on this side last time, so I'll start with Councilmember Cabrera.
I was thinking of making a motion to table the item for next meeting so that we can get more information in the different ways that could be combined. That will be give more time to staff so that they can play with the names. I was thinking that for the first round, because Mayor Pro Tem is Jimenez is this year. In essence, or at least for me, Councilmember Corralejo should be the next one online. So that us that we just came in could take turns in the next role and so forth. And then we leave space for the member of the District 5 to accommodate into that role. But first, kind of draw a rotation that is based in the time. Because if we just put it in terms of seniority, technically I will be the last one to take any role, because if both Councilmember Corralejo and Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez get reelected, then they will have more seniority than me, and I will not be. My 4 years will end without even trying any of those positions.
Okay, so what kind of information would you like to have brought back?
I'm kind of playing with that notion that that they can finish this term with Mayor Pro Tem, and then the following year we could start the rotation with us being the ones more in that position, and then we can rotate it with them and District 5. And
So-
we can also consider District 5 kind of like a comodine, like a well, we'll call it like in Spanish, but I think it's that joker in English that can accommodate, because it's the new person, and then we can define in years that better define the rotation.
Thank you. So do you understand the question and what we're trying to do?
I sort of do, but I probably want to follow up with you. And so that I make sure that I bring back the information that you want at this item at the table, but before it gets tabled though, it would be helpful for me to hear from everybody so that I could figure out how to tweak this monster. Yeah,
So council, so Councilmember Chavez, and then I'll go this way, and then we can vote on
But
the table.
point of clarification, because I said I made a motion, shouldn't go in a second and then share everybody, or we could just go directly into making comments.
So do you want to make a formal motion?
So you're making a
guess,
formal motion
yes.
to table this item or continue it to the next
Continue
meeting?
to the next.
Okay, so I second the motion. Okay, so roll call.
First we have to.
Oh, sorry, discussion. Okay, so let's have discussion. So Councilmember Chavez?
It seems kind of strange. I'm not sure where I'm at with it, but maybe I think in the kind of the thought process of Councilmember Cabrera of trying to figure out how we could manage this, maybe, I know right now we've got the Mayor Pro Tem to finish off his term as Mayor Pro Tem. So yeah, I mean.
So in January, we would still be on that process. So
Yeah.
This process wouldn't kick in.
Yeah, I know, until
until
the following year, I know, so I'm trying to follow his pattern of thinking and kind of feeling the same kind of way. I know that the issue is that both of those positions, or one of those positions is gonna be up for reelection. But it kind of makes sense to follow that pattern of, Mayor Pro Tem, and then it goes on. Because I do feel that for Councilmember Cabrera, it gives him an opportunity to get on as that rotation and have the option of taking it or not taking it, but it gives him an option in those 4 years rather than him not being in that rotation if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, number 2.
So we could probably carve something out if we needed to, that would be, okay, in 2024, this is what's gonna happen to me. And then after that is when we're gonna shift over to the gas.
So just to clarify, so for this coming January, we're still on the same system of what our current
Yeah.
policy says about the mayor pro tem.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you'll bring that back to talk about when this comes into effect in 2025, how that's gonna work out. Okay,
Correct.
okay. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez, do you have anything?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to the motion to table and adopt resolution 6006 in its entirety.
Okay, so your motion, I'm sorry, you made a substitute motion to table and to adopt?
No, I didn't say to table.
Okay, so I want
to
to correct language.
Adopt the resolution 6006 in its entirety.
Okay, so you're making a substitute motion to adopt.
Correct.
Okay, okay, so I need to finish the discussion because we hadn't finished the discussion. So, Councilwoman Corralejo?
Yes, I wanted to first of all thank Mike for that information. I thought it was very comprehensive and easy to follow, especially appreciated the fact that you gave the different scenarios and kind of like what the negatives were to it. So for me, you know, the rotation, seniority rotation that you recommended sounded good, so I'm ready to move with resolution 6006 as well.
Okay, so can I make another substitute motion? I'll make another substitute motion to go ahead and table resolution number 6006 to be able to bring more clarity in terms of the rotation system that's gonna take effect until 2025.
Okay, so let me make sure. So we have the first motion, which was made by Fernando to continue the item to the next meeting and bring back information. We have a substitute motion for the actual adoption of 6006. And then we have another substitute motion on top of that, which is we agreed was going to be sort of the cap on substitute motions, which would be 2, which is to actually table the item, which means no definitive time of having it come back to you and so forth. It would just come back whenever information has been gathered and so forth and so on.
And I second Mayor's second substitute motion.
You what? Oh, you second the
Second.
second substitute.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so.
So that's the way that we work. If you remember, we work backwards from the last motion made and then back to the first substitute motion and then back to the motion if that doesn't pass either. So,
Okay,
okay.
so we have a second substitute motion, so we're gonna vote on that. So can we get roll call?
Mayor. Just for clarification through the chair, so the motion from Mayor Pro Tem, the substitute motion, it's to follow exactly, I want to know exactly, what was the recommendation? I just want to be very clear on the
adopt.
recommendation.
Yeah,
To adopt
my
resolution.
understanding was that the first substitute motion, now I'm losing track, but the first substitute motion, I need a chart.
Continue for-
Was to
adopt
adopt
the
resolution number 6006 as it currently is before you this evening. No changes made.
Right, could you explain that process so the public understands it?
What is the process?
The process for,
For moving forward with the rotation system?
So he explained it already.
Point of clarification.
so the resolution, if it was adopted this evening, we would start the rotation process after the election in 2024.
24.
Right, so the existing mayor pro tem selection process that was adopted back in 2021 would remain in place. So this was it. And then if, there's been some discussion about referendums and so forth, all of this would be put on hold and held in abeyance if that actually happened successfully and so forth. So this was just an attempt to sort of finish this process up so that we could move along and do other things. So.
Point of clarification, but isn't that in essence what I was requesting? Because if we follow the same term, it will be Councilmember Corralejo's turn of being the pro term, right? Because that's I remember.
Only if council member Corralejo runs for election and is elected.
No, but for next year.
Oh, I don't know who the next person is. on the
No,
agenda.
I thought it was
So-
her predecessor.
On our existing, so because we still have to follow our existing
Right.
policy, right?
And our
The person
assistant.
that has the most, I think from the language that we had talked about, it was a person that has, so the next person would be the next person that was elected, right? Because I don't think we went through,
We have a list.
so we have a
Yeah.
list and it was, yeah, we have a list, you're right, there was a list and so it stated who was gonna be next on that list.
But in terms of your point of clarification, no, your motion was to continue this.
Yes, to continue to
We
bring
had more
more,
discussion, right?
and yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
Okay.
so are we all on the same page?
yes.
Okay, so.
We're
we-
working on the second substitute motion.
Okay, so I'll ask for let's do this by roll call, please. So I'll ask our deputy city clerk that we can get roll call.
Mayor Ana Velazquez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ben Jimenez Jr.,
Nay.
Councilmember Alejandro Chavez,
No.
Councilmember Maria Corlejo,
No.
Councilmember Fernando Rivera,
Yes.
Okay, so the motion fails and then we'll go on to so through the second, Mayor Pro Tem substitute motion didn't have a second, so
Didn't have a second.
it didn't have a second.
Okay.
So that doesn't, no, it wasn't a second, we can't second it now. So
Yeah,
that
we
was
can
done.
second it now.
I thought
We already moved on to another substitute motion when we did that on the basis that we had a second, so.
No, but I thought, so because we had a second substitute, because we had the substitute, but I thought when you do a substitute, it only moves forward if someone seconds it, but there was no second to it.
I thought, I thought that, Councilmember Corlejo, when she made her comment, was indicating a second, but
Yeah, that was,
But she didn't say that. She just said she approved it. She didn't say second it. So it's not parliamentary because she didn't second it. So we'll go back and then we go back to the original motion. To Cabrera's
I
motion.
think you actually take action on the substitute motion that was made. And I think that, if you want to formalize that by making sure that we had a second to that motion, but that was the way that we progressed, was that we had a substitute motion and then we had a second substitute motion on top of that.
So I was only able to make mine because there was already a motion on the floor, even though it wasn't second. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, so let's formalize it then. There was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem.
I second it.
Okay, now there's a formal second, so then we'll take a motion on the second, on the substitute motion.
Mayor Ana Velazquez,
Nope,
Mayor Pro Tem Ben Jimenez Jr.,
Yeah.
Councilmember Alejandro Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Maria Corlejo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernando Rivera.
No.
okay, so the motion passes on a 3-2 vote. Okay, so thank you. We have one more public hearing, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back for our second public hearing of the night. Okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. We are now continuing, we're going to continue with our next item on our agenda for tonight, and that's public hearing number 2. And this is public hearing number 2 to be able to the implementation actions for phase 2. And I'm not going to read all of that, right? Do I need to? Or so can I just read the ordinances?
Why don't we have the staff report first, and then if we need to read the titles, then we'll do that, either one at a time or as a group.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we will receive the staff report. Again, I will open the public hearing and then I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. So I will turn it over to Ariana Mora, who's going to give us the staff report.
Hi, good afternoon, Council. Ariana Mora, Assistant Planner with the City of Soledad. Today we're bringing a public hearing for the phase 2 of SB2 implementations. These are amendments to our Title 17 zoning ordinance code for the Soledad Municipal Code. SB2 relates to housing production in order to comply to various state laws and updates related to, in this case, these ordinances are related to ADUs, density bonus, at-risk units, governing specific plans, single room occupancy, and single room occupancy in the C1 district. And then amending concurrent building requirements and inclusionary ordinance. We will provide more information on that. So as you know, we have been in collaboration with PlaceWorks with our SB2 grant we received $160,000 to make these amendments in efforts to facilitate and streamline housing production due to the housing crisis in the state. The first phase of these amendments were approved in December of 2022. The second phase of ordinances and the addendum to the 2005 general plan for the environmental analysis was conducted. The first hearing was conducted in August 16, 2023. August 16 of 2023, and now we're moving forward with the second hearing for phase 2 for these amendments to waive reading, adopt, and read by title only, except ordinance number 757. So as we remember, back in August 16, we provided all these ordinances. The staff report does have a description of each and every ordinance. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And we do want to continue staff would like to continue ordinance number 757 as it relates to concurrent development. We do have affordable housing projects. The amendment is suggesting concurrent development of affordable housing units. And because of these affordable housing projects we currently have in the queue, staff would like to bring that back and make sure we modify the appropriate language to not hold an impediment towards these new housing projects that are coming forward. It's important to note that with the inclusionary ordinance, rental units is something needed here in Soledad. Therefore, we want to make sure we acquire the proper language to help these rental units be constructed when developers collaborate with affordable housing developers. In order to secure tax credits, the affordable housing developer needs to apply to the state. They can take several rounds to be successful. Therefore, it's impossible to tie timing with concurrent development as these units are being developed. Therefore, it's proposed that ordinance number 757 is continued for the next meeting on October 18th, or the next feasible meeting, along with the last phase of these SB2 amendments. As noted, the CEQA analysis and the addendum to the 2005 general plan was certified on August 16th. All the information was provided to council then and was approved. If anyone has any questions, the council or the public, I'm more than happy to answer. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ariana. Through the chair, yes.
Just to clarify one thing, if 757 comes back, it would go through a first reading and a second reading, right, along with the other item that had to do with agricultural housing in a industrial zone. And what staff is recommending the revision to the inclusionary ordinance provision, it still would require a developer to do concurrent development if they're doing an ownership project, or if they're doing a market rate rental project that had some affordable units. But what we would add is what the change in language we're proposing would be, and would appreciate direction on this, is the required inclusionary ownership units shall be constructed concurrently with market rate units or in a multifamily rental housing project that includes market rate units. City council may approve an alternate schedule for a multifamily rental housing project when an affordable housing developer is involved. So it still have to come back to council for approval, but this would allow for a partnership situation where a developer partners with a non-profit housing developer to do that affordable project. And the benefit of that is they're going to be doing 100% affordable housing projects. So they would at least produce as many, if not more, units at a deeper affordability than market rate developer might do otherwise on their own. And because of that, they'll need subsidies. So it might take a little extra time in order to do so. So that's what the proposal would be, or alternative proposal if you wanted alternative language.
Okay,
Thank you.
so Megan, I'm just a little confused. So because it's 757, so which one are we bringing back? The inclusionary housing that's amending?
Yeah,
Okay.
ordinance number 757.
So exhibit F.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and we can have questions, because I have questions on those, so that way, I mean, this is the time, right, for that to happen, okay. Okay, so, Ariana, thank you for that. So at this time, I think what we want to do, I know there's different ordinances that we have before us, and I know we talked about some of these in August. I have some comments, some final comments, and clarity on some of them. So I'll go, I don't know if it's easier to go, we can start on this side if there's any comments, and then we'll work our way down. And I'll make my final questions and comments on that to make it easier. So I'll start with Councilwoman Corralejo.
Are you, just
Yeah.
are you going ordinance by ordinance, or are you
Yes.
going as a group?
Ordinance by, no, so like they can have, if there's any questions they have on any of the ordinances.
Okay.
And do that instead of going ordinance by ordinance.
Okay.
Are we
Do you
gonna
want
do-
to chair, it may be better to take questions first and then comments, just so we don't lose track of your
Okay.
questions, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I do have a question. I was just asking, are we gonna take it to the public first or just council first?
Oh, yeah, you know
To
what?
get the public hearing.
Thank you. So I'm gonna open up the public hearing at 8:14. And then let me take it out to the council, to the public, if there's any public comments on public hearing number 2, which is SB2 implementation actions for phase 2, which is page 78 of our report. 78. Or no, sorry, the report had 78 pages. Is there any members of the public that are here with us in the chambers that want any comments, that have any comments? Okay, then I would take it out to any members of our public that are joining us via Zoom. And this is in regards to, again, public hearing number 2. Okay, seeing none, then I will close this public hearing at 8:15. And now I will bring it back to the council for questions first, and then comments. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ariana, for your presentation. So I do have 2 questions, and I'll leave comments for later. But my first question is just a clarifying question. On the what is it? The information that Megan read to us earlier regarding inclusionary, it does say that the required inclusionary ownership units shall be constructed concurrently. And I guess my question is just, what is concurrently? Like if you could give me an example, let's say that there's 100 units, what does that look like?
Yeah, when they're referring to concurrent development, that means that the affordable units and the market rate units have to be built at the same time. So the proposed amendment was that they were both there are supposed, because we want those rental or affordable units to be available to those that are wanting to reside at the same time, they should be built at the same time.
Okay, so does that mean that if there's, let's say out of the 100 units, the example I gave, if there's 25 units that are being built at our market rate, then there's also are they gonna parallel and build the 20 BMR units at the same time? Or are they only gonna do 5, which is the percentage, the 20% inclusionary rate?
Would you like me to? Yeah, so number one, they do have to have an affordable housing plan that's approved by city council, but yeah, it would be proportional to.
Okay.
So if they're doing a phased approach, the inclusionary units would have to be incorporated in that phase, so it would always be 20%.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, that was my question, just because I know it would be a huge burden. You know, and I don't want to turn off any developers to not develop at all, if, you know, if it was otherwise. And then also, with that same question, so I'm assuming then that we wouldn't be providing a certificate of occupancy to the developer until all the inclusionary units are built, or?
Yes, again, the affordable housing agreement comes to council to make those recommendations or adjustments, and I believe we follow that process.
Okay, and then I had one more question, if I can find it. Sorry. So I am not sure where I left my other question. I don't want to hold everyone up, so I will look for it while we go around. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez?
Yes, thank you. Yep, thank you for that presentation, Ariana. And I know we've been over this more than a couple times now with this and in great detail, so I appreciate that. The question comes again with the 757 and whether we're gonna run them. And it was explained regarding they're gonna be built at the same time, the inclusionary. The main thing is that one, that we're putting language in place so that we can expedite these and that we can get the needed housing for all those that need them. And then also at the same time, build the market rate houses and then also help out those that need the additional help and also meet our 20% set aside. So yeah, I'm good with that. Part of that language also with the affordable housing and that we expedite those when we have a collaboration or a partnership with a private developer is I think a win-win situation. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez?
As far as when we talk about the ordinance 752, I think it was, in regards to the announcement to the public of the units that become available, what's the process for that? What will the process be? I know that maybe we don't have it all, but you know, just.
Yeah, and this, just to clarify, the ordinance number 752 is for the requirements of at-risk assisted units. Yeah, I think, once that is formally applied, staff would have to create a program of, what is that term, like, registry of some kind to allow, or to make sure we keep tracking of these units and the affordable, when their affordability term is being expired, for us to either come in and see what we can do to extend the affordability or see what other things we can do with that.
And through the chair, I just wanted to add that one of the first projects that our new housing manager, once that person comes on board, is to develop a monitoring program. Because I don't think we've been doing the monitoring as we should be doing. And so that would be part of the monitoring to make sure that we have the list and an ability to, again, keep track of all of those. We do it a little bit through the annual report for the housing element, but we want to do it a lot more systematically, including some inspections in the future. So we can come back to council with a plan.
Okay. And under, again, 757, I know it's been brought up already, but on the issue of being concurrent, and I think the question that Maria brought forth, Councilmember Coralejo brought forth, regarding the 20% and coming concurrent. If in the process of one of those market rate developers partners with a nonprofit, is there the possibility that it could be a higher number than the 20%?
Oh, through the chair, yes, that's our hope. That's why we really think it could be a better opportunity to get a much higher increase in units. That's the benefit of that relationship.
Good. So yeah, for me, I think this is, I know that we're not gonna take that one. I think that one's gonna be coming back, I think on 757. Is that correct? But I completely agree that we need to make sure that it's concurrent. And that we're moving that forward, because I think one of the failures of the city back in, the early 2000s, when the housing plan was moved forward and the housing that was developed in 2002, 3, 4, 5 and on, was that we didn't have anything like that. That language wasn't there. And so the affordable housing was kicked down the road throughout the whole process. And so my whole time as a council member here, even though I've been here like a million years, we were following what had already been developed, and what all the plans that were already there, the maps that had already been vested. And unfortunately, because of the kicking of the can down the road, we ended up with affordable housing at the last minute, at the end, and concentrated in one area rather than doing something that looks like this, where we're mixing some of the housing with affordable housing, which I think is the best way to do it. So I'm happy that we're moving in this direction, and we're happy that we're moving finally to have something like this. So I'm okay with everything else, and I think we've gotten all the other information throughout the time. Thank you.
Councilmember Cabrera?
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for that. For the report, I think it's a third time or fourth.
No,
Thank you so much for all the work.
yeah. Thank you. So Ariana, it's the second time, right? This is our second reading, so it's
Yes,
not
sir.
third time. It hasn't came up before, like so many times. It's the second time that it's come before us. It came before us in August.
So, yes, I guess for clarification, the SB2 amendments have been coming since December of 2022. Since there's a lot of amendments we have to do through the zoning, for our zoning code. So this is the phase 2 that has been coming for a second hearing for final adoption. And then phase 3, which should be the last phase to close out this SB2 grant, is coming to the next meeting, which includes the R3 district, the industrial zoning district regarding the employee housing, and then the ordinance 757 for inclusionary housing.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because I remember we had some, but I don't, this whole extensive process, I know it really came to us in August. So this is a second reading, so thank you, and thank you again for everything that you put together. And I'm super excited that we're focusing on this. And obviously the purpose of the SB2 planning grant is really to facilitate production of housing and increase capacity. And I know for me, at least I'll speak on my behalf. I've been saying this since I came on board, since 2016, because we needed affordable housing. And as Councilmember Chavez said, my great concern and heartache was that in the earlier developments, they deferred all of the affordable housing and really creating environmental justice issues, because it's putting pockets of affordable housing in certain areas is absolutely not what we ever want to do in terms of planning. So I'm glad that that's coming before us and we're addressing that so we can never make that mistake again for our city. But I do have some questions, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run through some of the items because I have them per ordinance. And so on the inclusionary housing, I know on that one, so my concern is that's going to come back, right? So that's going to come back, but my concern is really, how do we hold the developer accountable if the affordable housing doesn't get built, right? Because even if we're going to say, hey, we're going to give it to someone else and they're going to build it, and we're taking away the responsibility from them, they can build on the market rate, but what happens if the person that we're selecting as a nonprofit doesn't build? So I think just clarifying some language to that. And then what is the length of time? Like, how long do we say, hey, it's been 5 years and you haven't moved on that, to what time? And then If there's I don't know if we can, because I know the purpose of this is to really encourage and support development. But if we can at least look at if there's any provisions that can be added to the length of time. And then what happens, right? What happens if they don't comply within 5 or 10 years? Because we don't, I mean, we don't want to be in the same predicament where the housing that was developed 20 years ago, 20 years now, we're barely seeing some of the housing production. So what happens? Does it come back to the city? How do we comply then? Because even if it comes back to us, then what's our obligation and what's our timeline? So just for me, it's more on the timeline for that.
Yeah, and just through the chair, just for clarification, so we can come back. As it is right now, some of those decisions would come back to the council because you would have to approve an affordable housing plan. Because it might be a little different for each development. But one thing that we're looking at for one of the proposals that would come to you fairly soon is a right of reversion clause where the developer would provide a blacktop ready property. And then after not successfully moving forward would come back to the city so that we could identify a responsible, a new responsible affordable developer partner if that one failed. And I think in the example of the developer we were talking about, they had that sort of provision in a deal that they had in Hollister. So they did provide that to us. But if you're looking for something specific in the ordinance, it might be a little bit more tricky, but we could look at that. So
yeah, I mean, I know that there's obviously, like I said, the purpose of this is to not hinder, but to move forward. But I think my concern is, again, how do we put in measures that we know that if we do that and it doesn't happen, then how do we remedy that? So, okay.
And I could talk to Mike offline, but one way that we could look at is providing some guidelines that go along with the ordinance that allow some flexibility. So it's not necessarily built into the ordinance that maybe define what kind of standards should apply. So we can talk a little offline about that and bring some examples for the next meeting to talk about.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you. And then on ordinance 752 exhibit A, so that's at-risk assisted units. I just have a question on that. And I think Megan, you had said then, because a lot of this, what I saw, there was a lot of the monitoring and compliance. So for all of these, we are going to have monitoring compliance and tracking all of these at-risk units and doing the inventory and doing annual compliance. This is what I did for the city when I was with the city. So a database, would be really helpful to make sure that we have everything in a database. And then we do the compliance based on, sometimes based on subsidy, you have to do it every 2 to 3 years or 5 years, depending. So, but that we do have that, because I think that's really important. And then my question, I think I had brought this up the last time, because Rancho San Vicente, so does this apply or not? They're single families, but they are gonna be at risk of, we had approved as a council, I believe, that their affordability restrictions were lessened. So this doesn't apply to them. I know the ordinance applies beginning of 2021 or after units expiring after 2021. So their units really didn't expire yet, but we gave them approval, right? So I just want more clarity on how does this apply? I just want to make sure we know how it impacts them or doesn't impact them. And then on 753 exhibit B on the density bonus, so what we're following is when it says affordable housing, the minimum affordable housing, what does that mean? So that's really based on those tables on the density bonus. That's what we're looking at the minimum numbers.
Yes, there is so there's a calculation with that table. So if a specific developer is looking for a density bonus on the project, then they would have to comply with that specific affordability number, percentage.
Okay, perfect. And then there, throughout this, throughout the document, there was a lot of reference to director, economic director. I mean, so it doesn't really specify. And so there's all of these different terminology that's used in different sections. So can we just clarify that? Who are we, who are we talking about? Is it gonna be our economic development director? Is it gonna be our planning? Because I know I saw planning director and I said, I don't think we have a planning.
It would, for our case, it would be community development director or community and economic development director. And again, it might have been in the past, you know, by approval of city council and so on. Or planning commission, but again, because the state really wants to streamline and facilitate efforts to housing projects, it's much, it's a factor project to do administrative at an administrative level.
Yeah, and what we could do is we could clean it up to say the community and economic director or designated. Would that work, Mike?
Can you do that? Because it has a bunch of different languages.
Yeah.
throughout.
So various designation for so forth and so on. So that would be just considered to be ministerial. It can still be acted on.
Okay. So we can add designees so that it can even be the housing manager in the future.
Right, okay.
Or planning.
And then on the criteria for denial of application on 17.39.260, there was a bunch of errors that I got. I don't know if the other council members saw those errors on their page, but I wasn't able to read that. So can we just correct that? Because I didn't, there was a bunch of errors, like error, but it didn't come out on my document. So I don't know if it's just was mine or if everybody else was able to read it.
You can take a look at that.
Errors on the printout or errors when you looked at it online?
Errors when I looked at it online, yeah. Because I don't have the printout, but I did it online and it gave me a bunch of errors.
When you tried to print it.
Well, I just saved it to my laptop from the link. And when I saved it, it brought up a bunch of errors for me. So I don't know. It just said error.
Which number was it?
17.39.260. So I don't know if it was just on my side, but just if you can just take a look at it to make sure. Yeah.
It does have a couple of them.
Yeah, and so on the equity sharing agreement, so I just want to make sure that I'm correct on this one, but that doesn't apply to Rancho San Vicente, right? Because they don't have any equity sharing agreement. So just wanted to make sure when that was coming to my mind. And the other thing on that one is if it applies to any of the resale restrictions also for Rancho San Vicente. And then my other one on this one is the enforcement provisions. It says the city shall certify household eligibility for occupancy of affordable units. So that's part of the compliance that you guys are going to be working on to make sure that that's being certified. Okay, so I'm good with that. Now I want to move on to ordinance number 754, which is Exhibit C. So just one comment on there. It said that occupancy limit is limited to 30 days. So can this be more for the SROs? Because the SROs are typically, I thought the SROs, you can have more than just 30 days, or is it they have to be there 30 days and then they have to leave and they can come back for another 30 days?
That's my understanding with the proposed language that we added with the consultants, that it has to be 30 days.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if that's a concern, we can definitely bring it back for the next meeting to look into it, or get council direction on them.
Yeah, because I thought SROs, they could be there for a longer period of time, not just the 30 days. I mean, because some of the SROs are not, I mean, some of them have like, they're part of a program, but then there's some other living quarters, because I know we had that in Salinas, and they're there for years. So I was just concerned it's 30 days. So if we can just look into, is it 30 days they have to leave and then come back, but they can continuously live there? Or is it 30 days and then you can't come back to the SRO unit? That just seems odd in terms of housing.
It may not meet the definition of an SRO. So, yeah, we'll look at that.
Okay, and then I just moving on then on to ordinance number 757, which is exhibit F. So that's gonna come back to us, right? On the inclusionary,
For both the first and the second reading.
okay, perfect. So just thank you for working on that and thank you for excluding some of that language that we had there where the council had the determination to be able to do something different other than this is a concurrent development and how it's going to move forward. The other item, Megan and I wanted to talk to you and then I'll finish off on the other ones. When I went to to MBEM had their digital housing, their digital forum yesterday, equity forum. They talked about housing, because they're doing a lot of their policy work also, and how is it possible to look at this ordinance and add language in terms of providing infrastructure for broadband? Or that's something separate that we can do when we're looking at, since we're updating all of our housing ordinances, is there a possibility to add some policies that if it's new development, or if we're looking at any upgrades or they're doing rehabilitation, can we add another element to look at if there's an opportunity to be able to ensure that there's equity in regards to broadband?
Yeah, I think it would be a great thing to add to the housing element, as an implementation, but maybe not to this stack of ordinances right now.
Okay, so we can add it to the housing element. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Then I'll move on then to exhibit G on the retail central business districts. And my only comment on there, I know it's the building height, and I think I had said this during the housing element meeting, but so we're adding, I know it says, I think it says more than three or two, is it on this one? So we're gonna allow for more, right? Okay. And then it does reference a downtown specific plan. So I just want to make sure the downtown specific plan, because we're referencing them in this purpose, that it's still a viable plan and that it's still updated. How old is the downtown specific plan? And it's still, I guess for me, it's just the relevancy of it because we are documenting it here as part of following that guidance.
Yeah, the downtown specific plan was adopted in 2012, so about 12 years ago. And the reason why it's referencing the downtown specific plan is because most of our C1 district complies with the Front Street area. So the downtown specific plan is responsible to enforce that zoning, that district on Front Street. Regarding updates on the downtown specific plan, they do mention, for staff to prioritize housing projects, prioritize commercial projects, prioritize mixed use zoning. I think if what we're working with on the housing element is to implement maybe a new update to that downtown specific plan and be more specific with mixed uses and upzoning in that area.
Okay, thank you. So that will be.
Yeah, and through the chair, I think we are gonna add that based on the council planning commission feedback to the draft before we send it to HCD is to update one of the housing policies will be to update the downtown specific plan.
Okay, thank you. And then on the permitted uses, because there was some language that had phone booths, video cassette rentals. I mean, we have to have that because that doesn't seem relevant anymore. And what is yardage and drapery?
Yeah.
I mean, this didn't seem relevant.
Yeah. And yes, as someone who looks at the zoning code almost on a daily, it's a little odd. But unfortunately, that's how it was adopted back a while ago. However, we are working on our general plan, which will, look through these zoning uses and maybe in one more or another modernize them or add additional uses that will be permitted or conditionally permitted in these districts. So we'll have the chance to modify those as we work towards this general plan.
Okay, so even if we're modifying them now, we're updating it, we can't amend that. It has to go back until we update the general plan.
I think if I'm not incorrect, we do get into environmental analysis with the permitted, I guess removing those uses are already enforced with the 2005 general plan itself, so we would have to make an amendment to the general plan. And again, as we move forward with this new general plan, we would definitely look into all those uses in all the zoning districts.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That was odd. Okay, So then just my last comments on 760, which is exhibit A, which is the accessory dwelling units. And I know we had talked about, there's obviously a lot of issues with that. But it is just to confirm they are permitted in residential, single family and multi-uses, right? Correct. And then the affordability restrictions for 45 years, that is part of the ADU. So they are restricted affordability for 45 years.
I'm not too sure about the term, but from my understanding, if the main dwelling has affordable restrictions, the ADU also has to have those restrictions in that unit. Yeah.
Okay, so it can be based on what those restrictions are.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when we get an application for an ADU, we do ask for a title report grantee to just, make sure those restrictions still apply for ADUs.
Okay, got it. And then my other question is because it talked about code enforcement from time to time shall conduct review of the units. So just to make sure we have a process in place to ensure that there's compliance, because that does mention that in the language. And then my last question on this is, the owner of the second unit may submit application to the city to delay compliance for violations up to 5 years. If it's not a health and safety related matter. So what process do we have then for compliance? And I mean, I know we don't have a database, but establishing a database and who's gonna be, I know it says the zoning administrator, so I don't know who's the zoning administrator is. As this person shall consult with code enforcement on that. I just thought that was a little odd. So unless it's something that's critical, like, I mean, the compliance if something happens in those ADUs, and I just wanted to bring that up because I know that obviously there's a lot of, garage conversions and unsafe and uninhabitable. So if these ADUs are being constructed, how do we ensure, I mean, a 5-year compliance seems like we're gonna give them permission to stay in that manner for 5 years?
Yeah, through the chair, I have a lot of experience on this issue. It's basically the state preempted us from enforcing illegal conversions as long as there's not a health safety finding. They still have to get inspected. They have to ask for through the city for a delay of enforcement action. So we would send out our building official to make sure it meets habitability standards. And then we do have a database through SmartGov that we would put a flag on it so that it would ping us maybe 6 months before. So there's a mechanism by which we do keep track of these things. And so we would probably treat it almost like a permit per se and put it into the system and then have a trigger.
Okay, well, thank you for that, because I think, I mean, we don't have as many yet, but I know, I mean, there's more, right, especially in the next couple of years, so to be kind of conscientious of how we're gonna handle that and what that means. So, okay, so when there's compliance issues in our residents say, unless it's health and safety, it's, it can happen. It could be there. Okay, those are all the questions I had. Thank you so much, Adriana, for your hard work on this document.
And through the chair, what I was able to verify is that these error codes are tied because they referenced another section of the code and there was like a hyperlink or a hot link that didn't convert over. So if you look, they're actually just references to other sections.
Just right click and it deletes.
So we don't need them.
Yeah, so we'll fix where the error, there's no content per se, it's just a reference and we'll make sure that the reference is within there when we publish.
Through the chair, just right click and it will delete the link.
Okay.
You have delete hyperlink and that will solve the entire problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and just so that our public has a clean copy and so we as well for that. So, okay.
And what we can do is we can clean it up and post it on the website for the public.
Yeah, we have to do a summary for these ordinances, so they'll have to be ready for that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and then another thing to mention, these SB2 ordinances are also helpful for us to move forward with our housing element as some of these kind of provide policy, implement, or is policy and allow us to create more programs from these newly adopted zoning amendments. So it'll be in compliance with our housing or going towards the work we're doing with our housing element and as we plan for the future of housing in Soledad.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification and for the public. You can see that the parts of the paragraph that are deleted. Crossing, are we gonna keep it like that until it's fully passed, or we're gonna start?
So that is for reference for those that are transcribing the ordinance into our municipal online code, They pretty much got the document and know what we're crossing off and what we're adding is what's underlined.
Yeah, so, okay.
Thank you. So Mike, how do we want to handle this then? Because there's a lot of the waiving of the reading, adopting and reading by title only. So do we need to do for each one? How do we want to handle that?
Through the chair, you did express one concern about the SROs, in the 30-year or 30-day term. Would you want that one to be pulled?
Yes, please. So that way we can just have clarity. I know we don't really have any SROs in Soledad, but as we're moving forward, I mean, what does that mean? Because I thought that was for a different type of housing use. And if it's only 30 days, I mean, it's just, yeah, if we can.
So just so we don't have to renotice, you want it continued then to the next council meeting?
Yeah, that would be better.
That would be better than actually pulling it would mean it's tabled. We get to start the whole process
Oh,
of bringing
no.
it back. So let's just go ahead and continue that one so that we can come back with clarification on the time period for the SROs.
Are we able to continue the 757 as well?
No.
Oh, no, because it's a, got it, yes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Through the chair, before we move on, I know the first round was questions, so I did have comments. I was waiting to say we were gonna go around one more time for comments. I'll make it quick. I know we're all tired. I was just gonna say, and there's like probably beating a dead horse, but on 757, you know, on the word concurrent, to me, I was a little bit confused because like I asked earlier for clarification, which I did get and I did understand, you know, on how that's gonna look. But I didn't see it spelled out on there, so I wonder if just for clarification purposes, but also just to not leave open for interpretation in the future. Maybe we can put something on there to kind of explain what concurrent means, which from what I understood, it was, you know, having that 20% at every milestone as we're going along. And then my second thing was, and this might actually go along with the SROs that we were discussing, that were being discussed earlier, and the lower barrier navigation centers for our unsheltered. Once we get to that point, as a city to have SROs, I think it is important to have some kind of what's it called, if it's transitional housing, to be able to have some kind of services offered to where we're helping the unsheltered or those that are in transitional phases to be able to have permanent housing. So I think that should probably be a part of it. I mean, I know for me, it's important to be able to offer them not just that housing for that time, but try to give them services that are gonna provide permanent housing for them. So that was my 2 comments. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, so anybody else has any comments before we move forward?
Through the chair, I don't know if I had a comment, but I think with some of the stuff that you were bringing up, I think one of the items on 752 that you brought up kind of triggered for me the whole compliance piece. And then when you brought up Rancho San Vicente, just making certain that on the deed restrictions that we are following through with those deed restrictions and making certain that they're there, because in San Vicente, in Rancho San Vicente, there was at least 8, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong, but I think there was at least 8 that didn't have deed restrictions on them, or something happened with the deed restrictions where when the houses they were sold at market. A couple of them were foreclosed, but some went at market without anybody ever looking at any deed restriction, even through the title company. There was no deed restrictions there. So somehow they were missed. So everybody pointed fingers at each other in regards to it, but at that point, I mean, there's nothing you can do. So so if we're going to be looking at that ordinance, I think that's something that needs to be put in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that, but so the notice requirement, so would that be, because the notice, it says owners of deed restricted affordable projects are required to provide notice of affordability restrictions that are expiring after January, but, okay, but that doesn't address that, it means if
Yeah.
it's not in there, then it's not in there, you
Yeah.
know, this is a compliance language, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The compliance, that's just reminded me on the compliance there.
And just for background on Rancho San Vicente, do you know what year that was brought forward?
When it was built,
Or around that, yeah,
I want to say it was built 2005. I wanna say.
okay. Just so I could look up around that age and.
Yeah, and we
see
should
what
have those
information we
documents.
I would say,
We
it's-
have
I
the-
want to say it's 2005, just because I recall the buildings going up around that time. And I remember going out there and helping raise a couple of the walls when helping out with Chispa.
Adriana, and we also, as a council, approved their, reducing their affordability restrictions. I think they had like 55 years, right? And we reduced it to 45 and we reduced it to 20. So we have, I know, we have
Nancy
all of-
processed all of
Yeah.
those, so she
Okay,
keeps up all the
so
documents.
we'll follow.
Mhm. Yeah, just making sure too, the impacts. Okay, so Mike, I'm gonna turn it to you. How do you want me to handle this? Are we gonna take it?
Is there a desire to make a giant motion to approve everything?
Sure.
Yeah?
If you want to do it that way, how's
So
it?
it's
Excluding,
CNF, right? CNF?
excluding 754, right, which is the
Exhibit C.
yeah.
Mhm.
And 757, although those are in different status. So we probably need a motion to continue ordinance number 754 to the next city council meeting, which I believe is October 20th, is that right? 18th, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we'll make a motion. So I need a motion to continue ordinance 754 to next, to the November city council meeting.
October
Oh,
18th.
Oh, sorry, to October 18th. Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue ordinance 754 to next, to the October city council meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. So we took care of that one. So
That's one down.
that's one down. Now 757. You want to handle that one?
757, just for clarification, we're bringing that back to both the first and the second reading, so it's actually not here for any action at all this evening, so we don't need to do anything.
Okay, perfect. So nothing on this one? Okay, then can we take a big giant motion on,
We can to waive reading, adopt and read by title only, and then there'll be a series of ordinances, which, so why don't I try, make it a stab reading those, what the motion would look like, and somebody hopefully will say, yeah, that's the motion I want to make, and then we can go from there.
okay, and I'll write it while you say.
So there would be a motion to waive reading, adopt and read by title only ordinance number 752. Yeah, okay, announcing findings and recommending that the city council of Soledad amend chapter 17.38 special standards and requirements of title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to incorporate a new adopted section 1738.030 at-risk assisted units. And also, so I'm just going to read the same applies to each one of these that I'm reading out. The idea would be the motion is to waive reading, adopt and read by title only. The next one in line would be ordinance number 753, announcing findings and recommending that the city council of Soledad amend chapter 1739 density bonus of title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code with ministerial changes. That's the one that has the errors in it. Then ordinance number 755, announcing the findings and recommending that the city council of Soledad amend sections of title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to incorporate a new adopted chapter 17.45 reasonable accommodation. Ordinance number 756, announcing findings and recommending that the city council of Soledad amend sections of title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to incorporate a new adopted chapter 17.46 specific plans. Ordinance number 758, announcing findings and recommending that the city council of Soledad amend section of title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to amend chapter 17.24 C1 retail central business district and requirements to increase specific plan densities. Ordinance number 760, announcing findings and recommending that the City Council of Soledad amend sections of Title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to amend Chapter 17.38 special standards and requirements, Section 17.38.270 second residential units, and ordinance number 761, announcing findings and recommending that the City Council of Soledad amend sections of Title 17 zoning of the Soledad Municipal Code to incorporate a new adopted Section 17.38.40 special standards and requirements for low barrier navigation centers to facilitate SB2 housing streamlining and acceleration.
Did you also want to include the clarification on the community development director to make it consistent?
Yeah, which one was that in?
It's probably across the board.
Just across the board.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that motion would also then incorporate the direction to staff to make the ministerial changes to clarify the designated party throughout all of the ordinance that would be acting on it. And it'll read something and their designate so that we have a little bit of latitude to have more than one person be responsible.
Okay. So, okay.
That
we have
was a great motion.
Okay,
No, that's the
so
first.
That's the first.
That's the.
Okay, so move, now we need a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, so Councilmember Chavez, second. And so all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. Thank you, Ariana. Okay, so we'll move on now to our next item on our agenda. And at this time now, we're moving into reports, council member reports, and
we have one more business item.
It's the same, too.
Oh, sorry, business too. Yeah, resolution number, sorry. 6005, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Soledad to reject, all proposals received by the City of Gonzales, Soledad, Greenfield, and King City to select a qualified contractor to collect solid waste, recyclables, and organic waste within the boundaries of each city as a single franchise collection zone. And I see that Dawn is still online, so am I gonna turn it over to Dawn?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dawn, if you can unmute. And Don Wilcox is our Public Works Director. Don, can you hear us? You're still on mute.
And for some reason I can give the report.
So Don, if you're not able to unmute, then we'll move forward with our city manager to provide the report. Okay, Megan.
Okay. So as council may recall, the cities of Gonzales, Soledad, and Greenfield have had a joint contract with Tri-Cities Disposal for the collection and processing of solid waste, recycling, and it's due to expire on June 30, 2025. So in conjunction with the Solid Waste Authority, the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority, the cities along with King City, which also had a similar expiration date, they use Waste Management, decided to go in together and do a request for a proposal to see if we all came together, if we could get better competitive bids due to economies of scale. We did get 3 responsive proposals from Green Waste Recovery, Recology, and Waste Management USA Waste of California Inc., which is also known as Waste Management. The proposals were evaluated, and because it would represent a significant cost increase to our residents, the average increase was 33 to 55%, depending on if there's, residential service and commercial services, with some cases, services reaching almost 100% increase. We felt that the best course forward would be to reject the proposals based on that high cost, and then direct us to renegotiate with the incumbent contractor, which is Tri-Cities. There may be also some ability since Waste Management also is with King City, and we are trying to see if we can coordinate our proposals together. So we would have discussions with Waste Management as well. So that's a recommendation is to reject all proposals received through that request for proposals for collection of solid waste, recyclables, and organic waste, with the intent to jointly select and award contractors to one franchise waste hauler for all South Monterey County cities, and direct staff to enter into discussions with South Monterey County incumbent waste haulers, Tri-Cities Disposal, Recycling, and Waste Management for an extension of their current franchise agreements.
Okay, thank you, Megan, for that. So I will open it up to public comments. If there's any public comments on this item, any public comments from those that are still here in our chambers? Okay, there's no public comments. I'll take it out to those that are still joining us via Zoom. Okay, so I see none, so I will bring it back to council. Any comments on this, and I'll start with Councilwoman. Did I start on this side already? Okay, so I'll start with Councilmember Cabrera.
I just wanna point a clarification, are we just, at this point, we just rejecting, or we are taking action into the last portion? As well.
It would be both, you would be rejecting the proposals received from the request for proposal and authorizing us to initiate discussions with the incumbent waste haulers. I don't know if Mike has anything.
Yeah, any subsequent agreement that we were able to, or arrangement would have to come back to you folks for approval.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
I guess my question, we only had 3 proposals that went forward to the Solid Waste Authority. And was there a reason why Tri-Cities didn't put forth a proposal, or do we know?
We do know that there was some challenges in the way that the RFP was structured. Not that they were bad, but in order to kind of get, because these are multi-million-dollar contracts, there was some certainty that needed to be provided, and they have a lease that they couldn't guarantee, I think, the same timeline as the others.
So the proposed RFP had a term for the new agreement of 10 years, and Tri-Cities was unable, for a variety of reasons, to commit to more than a 5-year term. So they decided they could not make a proposal.
Okay. Just because, I mean, that was my biggest question, I think, more than anything else, just because I knew that they've been able to provide services here, and if we're looking at an increase of 33% to 55%, I would definitely think that we would want to go back to Tri-Cities and see if there's something that we can renegotiate, so that we're close to where we're at now, rather than trying to put the burden on our residents that already have a hard time. So I'm in favor of moving forward with Tri-Cities. On the waste management side, if there is a possibility for them considering the 4 cities with King City, and if that were to bring down the price a little bit, then I'm okay with that. But I think Tri-Cities right now has served us, I think, pretty well.
Mayor Pro Tem Jimenez.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's my question was the same thing as why Tri-City wasn't involved in, and maybe, the reason being is 5 years. I don't know. We have an executive meeting tomorrow with the San Valley Waste Authority. I'd like to put that forward to them as well and find out more background to this. But in the meantime, of concern automatically is the substantial increases to our residents, and that's not acceptable under this current plan. However, we have one player removed, which is Tri-City, and yet we're going to go ahead and negotiate with them. It's kind of like, you didn't participate in the process. So I'd like to get some more background on it.
and then move forward gingerly as discussing or negotiating with them and see what they come back. And then also I could be able to report back from the waste authority as well, as we go through the process. So,
Okay. Councilwoman Corralejo?
Yes, my comment is just a little bit similar. I did find it odd that Tri-Cities didn't submit a proposal, and I just feel like, you know, they might have, you know, an advantage now when it comes to negotiating, because they know that the other companies came a little bit higher. But with that said, yes, I'm totally for rejecting the proposals that we got on, what's it called? I agree with our staff that the 33 to 55% increase is too much for our citizens or residents to take in, especially nowadays. And I think if I remember right, we're like in some kind of plan to work a 5-year kind of plan where the rates are going higher or something that I think I remember seeing prior to being on the council, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know who was here then, but yeah, definitely I'm in agreement to to reject those proposals.
So on the
Just one last question.
hold on,
sorry.
let me just finish on just on that question of the rate increases. I think those come to us annually, right? Because they have to come, the CPI
Yeah.
comes to us annually, so they're not like 5 years in advance. It's we have a contract, and I think we just went through the extension for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. But the rate increases come back to us on an annual basis for approval by the council.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess my question is, as far as the RFP process, I know Solid Waste Authority was in charge of doing that. Was there input given by the board in regards to how that process was going to happen? Maybe it's a dumb question on my part, but I'm just trying to figure out why we would do 10 years. I don't recall a franchise agreement that long, so I'm just curious as why 10 years was chosen rather than 5 years, which I think have been pretty, for the most part, I think, unless the county has done something separately, differently.
Well, through the chair, I can probably respond to that. It really has to do with the infrastructure for a new person to come in. It's quite a huge investment. So it's unlikely that a new player would come in for a 5-year term. So that was the thinking behind it. And then one thing I forgot to add is the reason why we want to straight negotiate with the incumbent haulers is because we really won't have much time to go through this extensive RFP process again with the expiration coming up. It takes quite a long time to kind of negotiate those contracts.
yeah, so thank you for that. And why the 10 years, right? Typically that's one of my husband works in waste, so we used to work for waste, so the contracts obviously for a year, that length is for bigger contracts. And I think just from the conversations I remember, and I have some questions, but the conversations I remember when we were going through this process, and obviously we had Tri-Cities before us, you know, I want to say maybe last year when we were doing the extension and we were going to go through this process. And I believe the conversation from this council was because we're looking at economies of scale and we're going to go into, instead of an individual city, now it's if we can do all of the cities, right? And now it's one contract, not just for one city, but it's a contract for all of the cities that the hope was that it would bring down some of those rates to our residents and provide us with additional potential services to be able to offer our residents. So I was a little surprised, given that lengthy discussion that we've had both at the council and then also with the mayors and the city managers meeting to make sure that we were ready to move this forward and looking at all of the different issues. So my question is, so obviously Tri-Cities, if you can clarify for me again, I know you said it, but why did Tri-Cities not, I don't want to say Tri-Cities did it and we're, you know, we don't want to negotiate with them. I want to be clear. Why did they not, they didn't submit an application because a proposal because they couldn't extend beyond that 5-year timeframe?
Well, it really had to do with a lease that they have for their I forget what it's called, but basically for their where they dump their waste.
Landfill?
not their landfill, but,
The franchise, no.
I want to say MMRP, but that's not correct. It might be in here, but, or no, we didn't disclose that, but they have been working with Marina for years and they have.
The transfer
Or-
station?
They're, yes, I think essentially, yeah,
To Marina.
not Marina, but Monterey.
Has a landfill, the landfill through Region. That's the only landfill that's there. I mean, Marina didn't, the transportation was moved from Salinas.
They
And
have
so they have
Salinas.
Salinas.
They have, yeah, not that, it's not the transfer station, they have a lease with Monterey County that they've had for years and years. And they have a 5-year term with that lease, which is a part of their collection services. And that's just how Monterey County wants it to be, so they couldn't make that 10-year commitment. There was also some ownership requirements that would have precluded them as well.
Got it.
So.
Yeah, thank you. So I think for me on this one, given obviously the whole RFP concept is, I mean, I'm okay to approve the rejection of it, but I also want to make sure that we understand also because it had, I mean, obviously what was increased cost went from 33 to 100%, right? So that's like a massive range. And so I would like, because it wasn't in the report, just a little bit more information in terms of what was it? Was it in terms of services or was it because now they need the infrastructure, the new trucks? I mean, I know obviously there's a lot of requirements now, but that was my comment at the beginning when I know we wanted to go into this RFP process, but I also knew if you're gonna ask other haulers to come in, there's gonna be a lot more cost increases. Because they have to do a lot, right? And the cost increases will most likely go into the ratepayers. So with Tri-Cities, I know one of the things that we had talked about was they hire local, right? They have a lot of their drivers that are from here. So I think for me, it was important to make sure that we, still maintain some type of relationship. And they've been great. I mean, they've been great in terms of cleanups, been great in terms of everything that they brought to our community that we didn't have before. So I just want to know, like, what are the services? Why was that spread? What was the cause of that spread that was so ginormous from 33 to 100? Was it in services? Was it in staffing? Was it in equipment? Was it in infrastructure? I mean, what was some of those issues? And then in terms of the renegotiating, I also want to see what were some of the other services that were going to be provided by the other haulers or included in the proposals that we don't currently have with Tri-Cities. And if there's an opportunity, if we're going to renegotiate, I would like to see what are some of those other potential services that we can look at that we don't have that would augment the services that we can give to our residents without having ginormous rate increases to them.
Yeah, through the chair. In terms of the services, they were pretty comparable to what we have now. The one thing that is an addition across the board is compliance with, I can't remember the AB, but in terms
Organic
of,
waste?
yeah, the organic waste, but that's a requirement across the board regardless. So I think the costs escalations had to do with we didn't break it down to see where it was coming from. We just asked what their entire rate would be for the services based on our existing kind of rate structure. And depending, in some cases, where it really made a difference was in residential costs. Because our residential costs are pretty good, but maybe on the commercial waste side, a little bit more parity, but it's based on the rate increases are really based on whatever increases they may have, which might be infrastructure. I know that there's been a lot of labor costs. There's been a movement for pretty significant increases in striking on the actual transportation worker side of things. So I know that they anticipated some sizable contract negotiations on some of the providers. I can't say on all of them, but we didn't break that down, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Megan, for that. I think, given the magnitude also, right, if we can just have a little bit more, I would like a little bit more details, and then some of the services you said were comparable, but what was it? And what services were they included that we don't have? And then if we do renegotiate, I'm interested in renegotiating if possible, but I also want to see what was included in those proposals that we currently are not providing to our residents.
Yeah, to my knowledge that it wasn't us that didn't have some of the services, it was King City, but that at the end of the day, they were proposing what we provide, because I think Tri-Cities does they do some sweeping, I think.
For King City?
No, for us.
For us.
Oh,
For us, so in terms of everything, I don't think that there was anything there that we are not already receiving. But in the case of King City, I think they don't have like street sweeping, so that would have been an addition to theirs, but the services are comparable to what we have. Yeah.
Okay. So then we need a motion if there's no additional comments on that. So we need a motion to reject and then to negotiate, right?
Just need a motion to approve the resolution.
Oh, a motion to approve the resolution. Okay, so is there a motion to approve resolution number 6005? I make a motion to approve resolution number 6005.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor. Do we want to do roll call? Are all in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to.
Mike, I don't know, I'm sorry to interrupt through the chair. Did Gonzalez take action yesterday or Monday?
Monday, yes, they took
Okay.
action. They also took the same exact action.
Okay.
Approved, yeah.
So all the other cities need to do the same. Does King City, because they have waste.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think for some reason King City wasn't doing theirs until maybe next week or something.
They have a different
Yeah,
schedule.
right.
King City and Greenfield, I think, are on the second and
Right.
fourth.
Oh, okay.
So, but Gonzalez already took action,
Yeah.
same action.
So we're the second. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, then I'll move on to mayor announcements and reports, and I'll start with mine. Just quickly, I know I was on September 27th, I believe, we had the joint planning commission meeting with the city council regarding the housing element. And then on September 20th to the 22nd, I attended the League of California City. So I am planning to provide a report to the council, and part of that also included some of our legislative efforts with Townsend, meeting with our assembly member, Speaker of the House, Rivas, with their staff to be able to talk about housing, more need for funding for housing, and also the other big topic that we discussed, Councilmember Cabrera and myself were part of those meetings, is also economic development. And I know they gave us a lot of good resources to be able to work with assembly members, speaker's office in regards to potential resources for our commercial, especially for moving forward our container village, and how we can really work with some of the state entities on that. So then on the September 25th, I attended the LAFCO meeting. And as you guys read in Megan's report, they approved a 1-year extension for the ag mitigation process. And then on the 28th of September, I was invited by Fort Hunter Liggett to be a guest speaker at the Hispanic Heritage Month. And we are having more collaboration and partnership with them to make sure that we have a better partnership. One of the things that I found that they mentioned during that meeting is they have a lot of civilian jobs. And so I know we've had discussions in terms of job force and workforce, and how do we make sure that we have not just retail and commercial, because some of them don't pay livable wages, but really having those opportunities to have our residents opportunities to have better paying jobs. So I know I had shared with Megan and planning to work with them more closely to look at what are those civilian jobs that they have, and that way we can better provide that information to our community members as well. And on yesterday, I attended the MBEB Broadband Summit. So they released their white paper that had 3 policy recommendations, and I think I forwarded to you, Megan, but if we want to forward it to the council. I know, Councilmember Chavez sits on the Salinas Valley Broadband Authority, JPA. So they did mention it, but this was more on the policy recommendations moving forward, and this is where they talked about housing, and as cities are moving forward with their housing element, how do we really make sure that we're also adding the infrastructure portion for broadband services to be included? So they did have some great policy recommendations. And I think that's all I have for now. So I will turn it over to Councilwoman Cabrera. Corralejo. Sorry.
On 9/23, I attended the Family Resource Center grand opening from the Soledad Unified School District. And then on the 26th, also attended the joint meeting with the Planning Commission.
Okay, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Attended the special meeting with the planning commission, the solid waste authority meeting was canceled due to lack of participation or attendance. We have an executive meeting tomorrow, so I'll be attending that. We attended the executive meeting prior to that one last month as well. I attended from afar the school district resource center, which was a grand opening, not too far across from the house of mine. But I was there and listened to the speeches that they gave, and also the tours that they had as well, and went by today and donated some items to the resource center as well. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
Yeah, I attended the joint city council planning commission meeting where we talked about the housing element. And also on September 27th, attended the Transportation Agency Monterey County board meeting. I think there's 2 pieces, but the real main highlight, I think, for everyone is that Measure X is surpassing the amount of dollars that they thought we were going to be getting. So the estimate was $20 million per year, roughly. And last year's amount that came in was $38 million. So we're talking about $18 million higher. And so what that discussion that we'll be having at the transportation agency, it will be, how do we look at, I think one piece that was missing there is that inflation hadn't been put into the equation. So that will take up some of those $18 million in construction costs, so on and so forth. But we want to look at what those other dollars are and seeing if there's any projects that are in the queue that are lower in the queue could be moved up a little bit. So that, I think, is the good news on that. And if it continues the way it is, there's a possibility that in the future, some of the project will be done faster than anticipated. And so we've got a number of projects. One of them is the safety improvements on south of Salinas, which is the 101. So there's some safety improvements to try to make that a lot safer for all our families and our commuters and everybody here, Soledad and everywhere else up and down the valley. And then the second thing, and this isn't really a highlight, but just a reminder that TAMD is seeking for its 22nd annual Transportation Excellence Awards. So if any projects that any of our cities have, there's a possibility of nominating one of our projects to get one of the TransD awards, and the deadline for that is December 1st. That's it. I did have a meeting for the South Salinas Valley Broadband.
Got it. Okay, Councilmember Cabrera.
I also attended the planning commission and city council meeting on the 27th, and I have to apologize because I was not able to attend the Soledad Historical Society meeting last month. I had an emergency. I was not able to even call Councilmember Corralejo so that she could be attended. I'm planning to attend next week to that. I also, on Saturday, I attended a conference organized by Padres Especiales Unidos, and it was amazing to see so many parents participating with their children, so many people involved in this movement, if I want to call it like that, because they bring in resources, they're bringing people that have similar situation in their house. And for me, it was amazing to see how active and how full of joy these families are. And hopefully, I think that they're gonna have another one. I am looking forward to attend and to attend some of the workshops they had. It was incredible. Thank you.
You're in charge. Councilmember President. You're in charge.
Yeah,
The mayor stepped away. So. Okay. The mayor took away. So
The mayor had stepped away, so I'll go ahead and, on her behalf, go ahead and take it from here. Councilmember Prazes, we'll start with, Cabrera. Councilmember Cabrera.
I just have one. I want to praise those Padres Especiales Unidos for the work they do and for the love and compassion that they show with everybody. Thank you for the invitation and you guys are heroes. Really, thank you.
All right, turn it back over to the mayor. We're on Councilmember Prazes with Councilmember Chavez.
I just want to thank our staff for here in Soledad. I think we have a wonderful staff across the board. So just want to give them praises because I think we sometimes forget to do that on a daily basis. And so I just want to praise you guys for everything you guys do in this community.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to give a praise to our Senator Ana Caballero for providing and acquiring a $400,000 grant for the Soledad Rec District for repairs in the facility. We really do, and I really do appreciate her efforts and her attention to our city. I know we worked with her in the past, and so my praise goes out to the Senator.
Councilwoman Corralejo.
Yes, I have a couple of praises. The first one is definitely the Family Resource Center. In being in attendance at the grand opening and also going back in Rotary meetings that we have had there. It's just really, I'm not even sure what the word is. It's just honestly amazing, to think, that this board of trustees came together and worked with each other and worked with their committee and their staff and other supporters in the community to do something that is honestly just gonna keep giving back to our community in every way. And they're being inundated with different resource groups and organizations that want to come and have a space there to be able to service the community. So that is amazing. Totally tip my hat to them. And then also there's two women, strong women leaders from Soledad that I just wanted to also give praises to. And one of them is Erica Padilla Chavez from the Second Harvest Food Bank. And she received recognition for her innovating thinking and working, partnering with Amazon to work with them in order to provide food to people that whether it's for disabilities or for different reasons can't leave their home. So just want to thank her for that. And then also Sandra Jo Galvan, the superintendent of the Greenfield Unified School District. She won the ALAS 2023 Superintendent of the Year. And I follow Sandra on Facebook, and I'm not surprised at all that she got this. I'm so amazed just the way, not just her work, her ethic and her leadership with her staff, but I see her and she's playing in the playground with the kids. She's sitting on the blacktop with the children, and she's just really a great example. So just, want to give praises to those people. Thank you.
So on my praises, I just also want to praise the Padres Especiales Unidos. They had a conference for children with special needs, and they had a lot of resources, and it was the first one ever in Gonzales. They partnered with the school district. So it was really amazing to see all the parents, to be able to see the collaboration, to be able to see all the different resources that sometimes our parents are not aware of, especially with children with special needs. So we now have the parent group in Gonzales. We have the parent group here in Soledad, which is awesome. And then we have the parent group in Greenfield too. So I'm really excited. I know they're all partnering with San Andreas Regional, and we have talked to them about also coming to do something here with us. Really supporting more of our community members and our families that really are dealing, that need the resources, and that is really difficult. And so I praise them. Ariana Mora, I also want to praise you because you've done an amazing job in tackling all of these housing updates and amendments that need to be done. And putting the housing element together last time and just really being very meticulous, very committed, very just detailed oriented, which I super appreciate, and everything that you've done. So kudos to you and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And also I want to acknowledge Jessica and her team from Recreation. I know that there was a clean day air this past Saturday, which I wasn't able to attend, but they're doing, I know she's doing a lot. There's a lot of programs that are coming and really paying attention to some of the things that the council has said. I know council member or Mayor Pro Tem had talked about pickleball, and I don't know what pickleball is, but anyways, I saw it that it's on their, on their schedule. And so I just want to really praise her and the team. Because I know that they don't have a lot of staff, but just all the work that they're doing to really bring a different variety of activities to our community. So want to just say a shout out to them. And that's all I have on that. So we'll move on to city manager's report, and I'll turn it over to Megan.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I'm gonna have staff reach out to each of you to offer you devices, to whether that be cell phone or laptop or iPad, just to help you with your service. So look for that, and please let us know how we can assist.
Yay.
On the dais, we do have a person coming forward to look at the system and the audio. We did purchase another microphone, but there's a wiring issue here. And that's why you don't have a microphone for each person, but we are working on that. And we are going to be working on the dais. It's more complex than maybe we thought. So as we start thinking about how to design this place, we'll probably bring that item for discussion to council so that you can provide us some feedback. I know that I think Councilmember Cabrera mentioned that he didn't really receive a good orientation. So I am going to be reaching out to another jurisdiction that I met at the conference. I went to the ICMA conference, and thanks for your support of that, to look at their packet and see if it's something that we can emulate. And even though it's a day late, dollar short, I want to provide some orientation materials that may be helpful moving forward. The splash pad, I wanted to let folks know that it's going to be very hot this weekend. So we have come together as a team and decided that we're going to reopen the splash pad. Maybe as early as tomorrow, but certainly Friday to Sunday, and we'll be pushing that out on social media.
Prices to that.
And I have been, one thing I haven't mentioned is I have been reaching out, and Greg Stevens and I have been talking. So I am going to try to, continue to support the Historical Society. And kind of understand what that inventory is, and hopefully in a couple of months have at least a discussion or plan that I could provide to City Council. I wanted to let you know that we're going to have on November 2nd a kickoff of the general plan. An open house, all the departments will be there. I think you might have gotten to save the dates, and we're really excited, and provide any feedback you want on that. I also wanted to let you know that on October 19th, there's a homeless summit that's going to be carried out by the Coalition for Homeless Services Providers. It'll be in, I think it's in Salinas at the, I think it's at the old Steinbeck Center. I will be there, and we will also be having a housing forum in conjunction with MBEP that evening. So we'll have a day of housing on October 19th. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, so we'll move on to future agenda items, and I'll start with Councilmember Cabrera.
I make my, but.
Future agenda.
Right, so that was for SB 329, the bill that provides for units compensation for council members, right?
I think it is, there is a.
Salinas approved it
If you wait, is specifically to section 36.516.
Of the government code,
Yes,
right?
it's 36.516.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So we can add that to the agenda for discussion.
Councilmember Chavez?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem
None.
Jimenez? Okay, Councilwoman Corralejo? No. Okay, so I have just two, and one quick, I forgot just to report that to the council and to the community, that I did meet with Lisa Ludovici yesterday while I was at the MWeb Summit, and she's from Charter Spectrum. And I know there was a lot of concerns from our residents regarding the internet services, broadband going down more frequently than they have in the past. She did say she was gonna give something to us in writing, so we all have it as a council and we can provide that to our residents. But she did also mention that what happens with them is they're tied to another system. And so when that system breaks down or goes down, then the entire system goes down. And so what they're doing right now is they're actually working to address that. So that way their system that has been acting up isn't connected to our system. So our broadband doesn't go down when their system went. So they're trying to address that. And so that way it can address some of the issues that our residents have been having with broadband. So just wanted to make sure that I informed you all, because that had been an issue, and she will be providing something in writing. I did also, one of the things I wanted to do is, Megan, I want to see how we can meet with Union Pacific. I know the removal of the trains, to look at how we can remove some of those trains that have been in that corridor for a long time. I know that there's been other conversations from them, but I think one of the things that was highlighted for me, especially when we're talking to Speaker Rivas's office, was, we say that this is, we have the only view of our downtown on the 101 corridor, and we have 87,000 cars that pass through on a daily basis. That's 87,000 cars passing on a daily basis through that 101. And those trains look horrible. And so if we can, I know I had shared this with Senator Caballero as well, and there is a legislative liaison from UPR. So if we can schedule a time to meet with them and say, what do we need to do to really, I know it's their property, but it seems like those have been abandoned here for years. And then,
If you're able to provide me with the contact, I can reach out.
yeah, okay, perfect. And then the other is on the Veterans Day celebration. I know, thank you so much for having the Dia de los Muertos celebration to kick off our general plan. I think that's super amazing. So that's going to happen on November 2nd, right, for our residents. But if we can also look at the Veterans Day celebration, I know typically I would support with that and help with that, but I want to make sure that it doesn't stop, that we do have an opportunity to celebrate our veterans and make sure that they feel honored also on that day. And that's all I have. And then,
Well, I did have one other item.
okay,
Sorry. There are a couple of council members asked that we put my 6-month evaluation on the agenda, and I'm suggesting, if it's amenable to the group, that would be November 15th, which I think is precisely my 6-month anniversary.
okay. So we'll put it on the calendar.
Okay.
Does anybody have any issues with that? Okay, so we'll put it on the calendar for that. Thank you, Megan. And then before we adjourn, I just want to adjourn in memory of our late Senator Dianne Feinstein, who passed away and was a champion for democracy, a champion for uplifting women, and just served her public, her nation, for many, many years. So just adjourn in her memory. Thank you. And we're at 9:40.